Counselors, Bloom,
Here.
Burdick,
Present.
Clark,
Here.
Crow, Levesque,
Here.
Ludke,
Here.
Mendes,
Here.
Neary,
Here.
Penn,
Here.
Schnepp,
Here.
Starr,
Here.
Tamish,
Here.
Turkelson.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. If we can all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the moment of silence. I'd like to especially remember Councilor Neary's father-in-law, Mr. Bancroft, who passed away on Thanksgiving morning, and also all those who have lost loved ones during this time, during the holiday season. It can be a very difficult time. Just want to remember those, and please ask that you keep those in thoughts and prayers, because as much as a time it is for celebration, sometimes it could be a time of sadness. Thank you. Thank you. And also like to wish anybody happy Hanukkah. Tomorrow's the first day of Hanukkah. Okay, so with that, it is time for public comment. Would anybody in the hearing room, actually, I'm going to flip it today. No, maybe not? Okay, I can't do that. I was going to give the people in remote land an opportunity to go first, but I guess maybe next time. So why don't we go to the hearing room first, if anybody would like to speak during public comment, and if you could please try to keep it under 3 minutes. Just sign in, please state your name. Thank you very much. Welcome. It's got to be green for it to be on. There's a button on the base of the microphone.
There we go.
There you are. We can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Conley, and I live in Osterville. President Levesque, members of Barnstable Town Council, my remarks this evening will be very brief. Our group, Save Greater Deuces Beach, is sponsoring an afternoon conference to be held on Saturday, January 27th, 2024, from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Hyannis Conference Center. Joining us will be representatives from a number of activist citizens groups from Massachusetts, New England, and beyond, who oppose with various degrees of success different aspects of the way ocean wind power is being planned by developers and permitted and regulated by federal, state, and municipal governments. I am here to invite each of you, members of the town of Barnstable administration, and the people of Barnstable to join us there. We call our event the Close to the Wind Summit for 2 reasons. We on Cape Cod, jutting out into the sea as we do, are by definition close to the wind, and therefore facing the impact of developers' transmission plans based solely on considerations of ease and profit. Second, as a sailing term, being close to the wind denotes danger, and our arguments against cable landings on recreational beaches are based on our perceptions of possible danger posed by these proposals to the environment, to human health and safety, and our way of life in our coastal villages. I hope you consider spending the afternoon with us. If so, please email us at saveourbeach22@gmail.com. On another note, please remember that the public hearing on EFSB's tentative decision on the Park City Wind Project will be Monday from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., available in person and on Zoom. I'm registered to attend remotely and to comment. Many Barnstable residents are participating as well. And then on Thursday, Secretary of EENA Rebecca Tepper will address a breakfast meeting in Boston on the economic challenges facing these ocean wind power projects. I'll be attending that gathering in person. As always, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Conley.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Hector Gunther,
I'm here to speak about the residential exemption, but before I do, I just wanted to make a mention that my wife Stacy has driven for Meals on Wheels for 15 years, and Meals on Wheels here on the Cape has a dire need for drivers for the winter. So if anybody here in the hearing room or listening on remotely can be interested in driving for Meals on Wheels, I have a name and a contact and a phone number to contact. The name is Dawn Taylor, and Dawn is the volunteer coordinator for Meals on Wheels, and her phone number is 508-394-4630. So please, if you are interested or know somebody who might be, please pass that contact info along. So good evening again, councilors. I'm Hector Gunther. I'm an active volunteer in town. I counsel seniors on Medicare, and during tax season, I help them prepare their tax returns. I'm also vice chair of CFAC, of which I've been a member since 2018, coming up on 6 years now. First and foremost, congratulations to all of you for your election, and thank you very much for your service. Tonight, I just want to speak briefly about advocating in favor of increasing the residential exemption for the owners of 11,247 homes who live in Barnstable year-round. As you know, the residential exemption is a device available to cities and towns in Massachusetts that wish, as a public policy goal, to promote year-round occupancy of homes by owners and to give a break to residents who live in more modest homes in those communities. The residential exemption formula is progressive. It provides higher dollar tax breaks to owners of lower valued homes. Barnstable residents who would benefit most would include elderly folks on fixed incomes, young families in starter homes, and middle-income working people who've managed to scrape together the money for a down payment and secure a mortgage. Barnstable put in place its 20% residential exemption in 2006. That's 18 years ago. In my opinion, an increase is long overdue. In my opinion, it's time to incentivize and to help moderate income people and worker families to put down roots in our town. So how much should the exemption be increased? Well, there are lots of ways to think about it, and I'm just going to go through one, and bear with me, there's a little math involved here. In fiscal year 2017, in other words, 7 years ago, the median assessed value of a home in Barnstable was $319,000. Fast forward to today, that assessment has grown by 80% to $575,000. During this time period, the year-round resident in a median assessed home has experienced, even with the 20% exemption, an increase in his or her property taxes of $450. So if you were to vote tonight to increase the residential exemption by 10 percentage points to 30%, that resident, that hypothetical resident who lives in a median assessed home, that person's property tax bill would drop by, wait for it, $450, the amount that it's increased over the last 7 years. There are other ways to analyze this issue, and I'm sure you can think of a lot, but here's where I come out. I would vote to increase the exemption to 30%. That would put Barnstable at the same level as Wellfleet and Truro, but slightly below Provincetown, which enacted a 35% residential exemption in 2022. In any event, my plea to you is please do something. After 18 years, an increase is long overdue. The year-round homeowners in the town of Barnstable deserve it. And now I look forward to listening to your debate on this matter tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gunther.
Good evening. My name is Joanne O'Connor. I'm a Centerville resident and a founding member of Barnstable Speaks. Our small grassroots membership numbers over 300. We first formed to inform the citizens of Barnstable of the crisis we face with the offshore wind project slated to land on our local beaches and under our waterways and public roads in residential neighborhoods. I would like to thank our members for listening, learning, and acting on these concerns we all share. They have attended meetings and written hundreds of letters to the EFSB. The board will present a final decision on December 11th. The town manager, legal department, and town councilors and staff have been working with Barnstable Speaks to ensure we do everything we can to protect our fragile environment, most importantly, our sole source aquifer. We look forward to continuing this work with the town council. I ask the council members to reach out to your counterparts across the Cape. This is not a Barnstable problem. The entire Cape needs our sole source aquifer for clean, safe drinking water. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chuck Tuttle, longtime Centerville resident. Congratulations, new counselors. I want to thank you in advance for your service. I wish you patience and thoughtfulness. And please remember, you were elected to represent your constituents, not yourselves. 3 things tonight. Number 1, as a citizen who has been concerned enough to speak during public comment several times during the past few months, I ask you please to be as welcoming as possible to taxpayers who use public comment to share their input and concerns. I ask you to refrain from using response to public comment to belittle or disparage those citizens. This has happened to me, specifically on November 2nd. That kind of behavior from town councilors is not productive. It is not leadership. Number 2, we are all in favor of clean energy. I'm sure you'll remember the public meeting that we had at Barnstable High School on October 23rd, attended by nearly 1,000 people in person and online. The Boston Globe published an article which featured that meeting. One of the points that I and others made during that meeting was that it's dangerous, destructive, and unnecessary to land industrial electrical transmission cables at recreational and residential areas. In response, according to the Boston Globe, Avangrid referenced cable landings in Europe. Quote, in France, the Saint-Nazaire offshore wind project lands cables at beaches in residential areas similar to Barnstable. Great. Let's look at Saint-Nazaire. According to BrittanyTourism.com, quote, Saint-Nazaire, an industrial city. It continues. Saint-Nazaire is best known for its shipbuilding industry. In 1862, so forth and so on. Thus, Saint-Nazaire became a center for building ocean liners. The Queen Mary II was built there in 2003. So Saint-Nazaire is an industrial shipbuilding city, a far cry from the quiet recreation enjoyed at Craigville Beach and Dowses Beach. The electrical transmission cables in France come ashore at industrial ports, not recreational beaches and residential areas. This is another prime example of Avangrid's misinformation campaign, their continued lack of transparency, their focus on profits, not people. As you may know, there are several appropriate nearby sites which Avangrid or any other contractor could employ to land electrical transmission cables from offshore wind farms. And lastly, number 3, you have the power to stop high voltage, large wattage electrical transmission cables from offshore wind farms landing at our recreational beaches, running through our residential neighborhoods to large electrical substations at sites which jeopardize our drinking water. Article 97, as you know, is part of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, designed to help towns like Barnstable protect itself. Avangrid or any other electrical contractor can get all the permits they want, but if they do not have permission to land at our protected areas, full stop. They will argue that is not the case. Let them argue. Article 97 is very powerful, and it belongs to you. Just say no. No easements, no more Article 97 waivers. Your constituents are counting on you to protect and preserve our drinking water, our neighborhoods, our world-famous recreational areas, and our way of life. Thank you.
Hello, Asia Graves. I'm going to sign in a moment. I just wanted to speak to the new town council. As a resident of Barnstable, I do want to make sure that we keep housing on priority. That should be our biggest issue when there are thousands facing homelessness in Barnstable on a regular basis. We need to make sure that that is key priority. I've heard from many members in the community saying that those who can't afford to live here should not afford to not be here. And I've been myself told to move off the Cape if I can't afford to live here. That to me is problematic. We need to make sure that we increase housing now, ASAP. I know that we have housing in the pipeline, but many people online and in the community complain when they go to the pharmacy or they're trying to get a shot and they can't find a doctor because there's just not enough of a workforce here. As a local worker who works hard every day to be able to afford to live in this region, I think about the home health aide who is struggling and has to make the decision to say, I love my patients here in Barnstable, but I can't afford to live here. It's too expensive. Far too many of us are driving from off the Cape to jobs on the Cape. That increases traffic on our roads. We also, another thing I would like to ask for is, I live off of Independence Drive. Many of you ran on green and environmental policies. I'm hoping that, as I looked at the budget, I'm hoping that the town is willing to give people, the residents of Independence, a park where their youth can play, because as many of you all complain about some of the new developments being concrete jungles and not having access to playgrounds, I'm hoping that as a town council you all would be willing to build a park for the residents who live on Independence Drive, who are, their kids are trapped in apartments at times and are not able to go outside and play. Gordon, you've seen the kids playing in parking lots in your district. So I'm hoping those who are on the town council are willing to do something, because that would be a green space for the entire community, which is desperately needed in that area. It's nothing but office parks, and there's no stores or any industry in that area where I live at. So a lot of those, we built a lot of these developments. We need something there for the community. There's no transportation after 5 o'clock on that road. So the residents are literally trapped in their apartments. We need to do something. There are many people that want to work here on the Cape. I've been following the renters forums, and there were a lot of people that would love to live on the Cape and take jobs at the Cape Cod Hospital, but they can't find housing. So my hope is that you guys look at your housing policies and maybe say we will build more. I know some of you say that it should not be all in Hyannis, but it needs to be where the people want to be. And if Hyannis is where the people want to be, we should build there, particularly on Main Street. There's a lot of empty buildings that are there that we could literally build and make sure that businesses have year-round customers coming in. Far too many businesses shut down after a bad tourist season here. I believe that businesses need year-round help. And I'm hoping that as a town council, you guys are willing to look into building more affordable housing. That's something that there are people needing. And in certain districts, I know in Precinct 9, Charlie, you know that there are people that need housing there. So I'm hoping that we can work together so that a family of 5 is not stuck living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We need to make sure that as a person who wants to do things locally in the community, that there are things to do for the population that lives on Main Street. So businesses would be able to stay open, and if our businesses are happy, our workforce will be happy. And I'm just hoping that we can come together and do some things for our local workforce who are struggling to get by every day.
Thank you, Ms. Graves. Welcome, Mr. Jones.
Thank you so much. Good evening, councilors, and congratulations to all the new councilors. You've got your work cut out for you, believe me. My name is Bob Jones, and I'm the vice chairman of the Steamship Authority Board of Governors, and I'm the town of Barnstable representative to the Board of Governors. And this evening you will be reviewing an article by Senator Susan Moran, which basically is concerned with a vote. The way the voting is set up in the authority is the island voters always have a very substantial weighted vote. That's by design. And going way back for years, it's by design. They want to make sure that the islands are not overpowered by the mainlands, and they always have their transportation. This here adds an additional vote. In other words, if they had a 70% vote, they would need one more vote from the mainland to effectuate that vote, which basically dilutes that vote that they have. And I've been on the board from the Port Council right now through today over 22 years. And when I left the Port Council and went on to the board, which has been about 6 or 8 years, I don't know, but I've never seen a leverage vote of 70-30. Most of all votes taken by the authority are usually 100% unanimous, or maybe 1 or 2, abstentions or negative votes. We work together as a team. The votes we don't even think about the votes when we're negotiating and things like that. It's never come down to, a leverage vote of the Nantucket and the islands there. So in one way, it's fixing a problem that doesn't exist. However, I'm going to say this, that I see no reason why the council shouldn't vote for this. I can't see a reason for voting for it, but I can see no reason for it. I can say right now the telephones are lighting up over in Nantucket, and I've read some recent articles today that came through and things, and they're not happy. We spent years going back to the Cass report and going back to when the steamship first came to Hyannis in 1978. There was war because going back one step further, in 1960, the Steamship Authority prior to that was made up of New Bedford and the islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard and Woods Hole. And when 1960 came, they took New Bedford out of the mix, mainly because moving freight from New Bedford to Nantucket was way too costly.
Mr. Jones, you're over 4 minutes, just so you know. You're over 4 minutes.
Oh, goodness. I just getting wound up. Well, that's all right. I only really wanted to come in and make my presence known, and if any of the new members want more information on the Steamship Authority, I'm open for it. I deliver a package every year to you with a letter, but please don't hesitate to call, and good luck in your endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thanks for your service. Thanks for those annual reports.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Megan Mort from Marston's Mills, and I am speaking in front of you because I know that you will soon be electing Town Council President, Vice President, etc. I believe that somebody in that position should be somebody with experience on the Town Council. I sent an email to everybody. I'm not going to rehash all of that. But after that email, I received a phone call that I didn't appreciate accusing me of assault. I think it's pretty heinous for a town council member to call a constituent and say that just by sending an email, that is an assault. It's an insult to people that do face that, and it's entirely inappropriate, especially for somebody who is seeking town council leadership and thinks that they have what it takes to be a leader on this town council. I've spoken in front of it many times. I've disagreed with many people over the years, and I've never had a phone call like that, ever. So I think that does a disservice to everyone on this town council and constituents. There should not be fear of being spoken to like that for an email, in which I quoted this town councilor. So if using your own words is going to be considered assault, then I would use your words carefully. And I hope that you give constituents the time to debate over who should be town council president and have their say, as many of you campaigned in support open transparency to your citizens and constituents. Thank you.
I will write in Roberta Mock, 80 Greenwood Ave, Hyannis. Congratulations. I'm so proud to be part of this town because there's great people here that really love and care and work together. Thank you so much for everything you do, everyone here. I'm going to try to read this quickly, a letter that I wrote to Donna Sharkey. She's the presiding officer of the Mass Energy Facilities. Hi, Donna. You may remember me from the meeting at Cape Cod Community College. I came up during the break to tell you that I took photos of the Centerville River, Craigville Beach, and made a request to have them presented at the public comment meeting. They lost it. This is the state, okay? The EFSB needs to place a pause and slow down Eversource approval process, including Avangrid. EFSB did not provide enough time for this project to be put in place without reconsidering the enormous negative impacts that it will have on our eastern seaboard. This wind farm makes our eastern seaboard extremely vulnerable in a war situation. It also makes us vulnerable to brownouts and expensive repairs that will burden us all. California Audubon was a powerful voice in tearing down a wind farm that was decimating tens of thousands of endangered migratory birds like the golden eagle. Tens of thousands. And why isn't Mass Audubon? They're being paid. They're being paid to not be on the side of the people here. I'm not going to read all of this. NEFSA, New England, NEFSA, that's from Commercial Fishermen Group from Maine to Florida, is very much adamantly against this. I was called by the president of NEFSA about 3 weeks ago. I'm not sure that Mass EFSB in good conscience can move forward without taking a diligent pause. The state of Massachusetts must not, in good conscience, with willful blindness, allow Eversource and Avangrid to move forward until we thoughtfully consider all the dangers and negative impacts we will be suffering by not today taking a pause in doing this right. I know that you care to do this right. However, it doesn't seem like it seems like they've already planning to do this, because you know what happened on the day before Thanksgiving. They just pushed this along. And how about who's on, I mean, this is who we're fighting. The woman who just, I forget what her name is. The woman that who's now the new CEO, she was a state regulator, and now she's working for the new CEO for Vineyard Vine. I mean, that's pretty dirty. They're fighting dirty to get this done, and they're doing it fast, and we're all losing because we're letting them to do this. So we need your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mock.
Mr. President, members of the Barnstable Council, fellow citizens, pleasant good evening. My name is Hilda Hay, and I am the chair for Barnstable Housing Committee. And this evening, I just want to highlight the housing crisis that is increasingly in our community. At this point, I know we have 307 Main Street, the TD building that we are really considering to be housing for our residents that live here. I work at Cape Cod Hospital, and I must say to you that if we don't do something really fast and furious, we are going to be in healthcare crisis, not only housing crisis, but healthcare crisis. I've been at Cape Cod Hospital for 16 years. None of us would like to come into the ER in pain or in any way, in any distress, and have to wait 8 hours, 12 hours, or 6 hours to get in and to see a doctor. This is where housing comes in, because right now we have so many open vacancies that we can't fill because of the housing crisis. We have travelers, we have year-round residents who used to live here, nurses, doctors, CNAs, who have moved away. In the last year, we have lost so many workers moving to different states because of the housing crisis, because they cannot afford to live and work on Cape Cod. So I am begging everyone here sitting on this council, 307 Main Street would be a big help to the people. It's close to Cape Cod Hospital, it's close to it's right in smack in the middle of the business community. And we need housing. We are desperate. We need workers. Not only at Cape Cod Hospital, but all other small businesses throughout this community. Every other business you walk around, you see a sign say needs help. And I'm saying, if you come in the ER or you get admitted to Cape Cod Hospital, if the CNAs that are here can't live here, can't afford to pay their rent here, because what they work cannot afford to pay for a 2-bedroom for $2,500 or $3,000, working $20 an hour, who is going to clean our fanny when we get sick and get in there, including myself? Who is going to wash the floor if the housekeeper can't afford to live here? Our doctors, there are doctors who get jobs here and can't afford to live here because the cost of living is so high with them having college fee to pay, to live, to take care of their family. So I would hope tonight that this new council will take serious step and take into consideration our health, because it at risk for all of us in this community. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hay.
Good evening, councilors, and I'd like to say welcome to all of the newly elected councilors and also the ones who were re-elected. Glad to see all of you here, and wishing the absolute best. And I grew up here my whole life, from West Barnstable Elementary School up, 40 years as a banker, and I currently own 2 separate companies that I operate here in town. And obviously I'm here to speak about the wind cables and the water tables. Obviously, it's a passionate subject for everybody. I would imagine everybody here in the council's already made their mind up on which way they're going to vote or sway in the future. At this point, the cart has kind of left the barn, and we really have a very serious fuse that's been lit here in the town of Barnstable by the Energy Facility Siting Board and Avangrid and this particular project they call themselves Park City Wind. You are all, I'm sure, and I'm going to try to skip all the details because I'm sure you've gotten hundreds of emails, maybe even thousands of emails from the constituents. But I just want to point to a couple letters I know you have received. One is from the Centerville-Ossville-Marston's Mills Water Commission, signed by all commissioners and the director. And it was requesting the protection of the well zones. And in this letter, and again, I'll spare you the major details, but they state that there is 35 separate stations or wells that serve over 50,000 residential customers. The motel site on Shoe Flying Hill Road is directly over these well fields. It's in an aquifer protection zone. It's in a ground protection zone, and it's only hundreds of yards from the shores of Wequacket Lake. It is also up gradient in the wells, and it's located over the Sagamore well, which goes all the way from the canal almost to Yarmouth. The town lately has been writing letters, and I know we have filed for intervenor status with the Energy Facility Siting Board. That's a critical stage. We're not at an intervenor right now, which almost doesn't give us the right to appeal anything. So I encourage the board, if they vote for anything, it's to encourage our town councilors and potentially outside counsel to vigorously pursue that appeal and get town of Barnstable back in the game and at least fight to get us intervenor status. It's so critical going forward. I went through this with the Cape Wind project. I was involved in some of those lawsuits, and intervenor status is absolutely critical. Another thing that's absolutely critical is the request that there is an EPA rule which is called sole source aquifer. That's any body of water that contributes more than 100% of our drinking water or fresh water to our drinking system. We are in that situation. It's actually anything that's over 50%. Cape Cod, our area, is actually 100%. There's a sole source aquifer regulation with the EPA, which in turn is supposed to be enforced by the Massachusetts DEP. The Massachusetts DEP actually has a sole source aquifer officer who is supposed to be enforcing this. And one of those enforcements would be the protection of public well fields, which is exactly what this is. They have to be forced to do it. Politically, they will not do it. If the state is for the project, they're not going to do it unless they're either sued to do it, forced to do it, or embarrassed into doing it. We have to demand that.
You're at 4 minutes, Mr. Carroll.
Am I really?
Yes.
Jesus, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just letting you know.
Okay, I appreciate the courtesy. Let me just find my quick note and I'll get right out of your way, hopefully within seconds here. Okay, I talked to you about COM. You're also all in receipt of a letter that states that there's some questions about the validity of the contract, but also in addition to that, whether or not Avangrid may have already violated our host agreement. I talked to you about the EPA, bonds and insurance. One of the waivers they're trying to get with the zoning override here with the EFSB is our ability to hold them liable with a bond for any type of damage to our water systems or fire. I apologize. It's impossible to do this in, I guess, 5.5 minutes, whatever I'm at. So I'll submit in writing, but I welcome you all.
I welcome you to
Thankful for
submit to
what
us.
you're doing, and I hope we all work together in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. I have the privilege of knowing many of you already. My name is Rob Brennan. Thank you, Councilor Starr. I am a year-round resident of Osterville. I am an investor and property owner of apartments in downtown Hyannis. I'm an attorney. I represent developers, both nonprofit and for-profit. Most recently, I represented the developers who are doing 307 Main Street in the TD Bank building. I'm here tonight, though, speaking in my individual capacity. I I have to confess, I have not been here every other Thursday on a regular basis. And I've not been here because I have known and I've gotten to know many of the counselors who were serving, including in leadership. So every other Thursday, I was not in attendance, but I was confident that the leadership of this council, that the membership of this council, sitting here in Hyannis, in the shadow of the Kennedy Museum, were mindful of the 1956 book, Profiles in Courage, written by President Kennedy, helped by Teddy Sorensen. But that's a book that profiles leadership. And it profiles leadership often at the expense of those leaders who are exercising their individual judgment, leaders who are digging in deep, leaning on that backbone, and doing what is right for the communities that they represent. So for many years, while I was doing work here, while we're building a home here, as I got to know the people that not only were on the council, but in the administration as well, that there was a guidance and a leadership and a focus of doing what is right for the future of Hyannis, for the future of Barnstable, for the future of Cape Cod. My hope and my charge to the new leadership, and I hope that that is made up of members of the past leadership, is to remain mindful as we sit here in the shadow of JFK of that 1956 book, but that the focus of this council is on a Barnstable of 2056, not of a Barnstable, not of a Hyannis of 1956. You are elected as the council sitting in 2023 and 2024, some 2025 and into 2026. We are that much closer to the Barnstable of 2056. So we are going to get to know each other well. I plan on being here every other Thursday. What I do in my day job is real estate. I serve as the chair of the Government Affairs Committee for the Massachusetts Home Builders. I serve on the national leadership team for the National Association of Home Builders. I serve on the board of the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative. Along with Dorothy Savarese and a great team of folks, we recently founded the Massachusetts Housing and Climate Innovation Center, based right here on Cape Cod, to take on the challenges of that intersection of housing and climate, to draw upon the great traditions of innovation, to draw upon the great capabilities that we have here in the college, investments that are made in the college, but solving the challenges that are under our feet, to turn those into economic development opportunities, to turn those into solutions born here on Cape Cod and exported to the corners of the state, the country, and the globe that are also standing at that crossroads. I plan on being here again every other Thursday. I'm accessible at all times. I've had the privilege, again, of getting to know many of the counselors. I will always take a phone call. I will always take a lunch. I'll always buy a coffee. And I look forward to working with all of you to solve these challenges as we're moving forward and to keep the focus of all of us on the Barnstable of 2056. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Anyone else in the hearing room would like to speak during public comment? Would anybody like to participate remotely?
Okay, first up for public comment is Beth Wade. Beth, you can unmute and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Barnstable Town Council. My name is Elizabeth Wade. I am the Director of Land Acquisition and Project Development for Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod. And I just want to provide a few brief comments regarding the proposed authorization for sale of the land at 164 Route 149 in Marston's Mills. This parcel as town-owned property has been on our radar for several years now, so we were absolutely delighted with the release of the request for proposal for its acquisition. And then the positive response to our proposal from the selection committee for the use of the property. Although the proposed acquisition price is minimal, ensuring our ability to meet the budget for building 2 quality, highly energy efficient, subsidized homes, we believe the Habitat built homes will provide significant public benefit to the town of Barnstable. These homes will provide 2 families whose income is at or below 80% of the area median income, an otherwise unreachable opportunity to own their own homes for an affordable price of around $235,000. Further, the homes will be restricted in perpetuity to benefit future families at the same income level when they are sold. Habitat will work closely with the town to be sure that the homes are eligible for and listed on the town's subsidized housing inventory. The families themselves will actively participate in the home build, learning new skills and cementing them to the Marston's Mills community, where they will be contributing members. We very much look forward to building again in Barnstable and do thank you for your serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wade.
It'll just be a moment while we wait for the next person.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up for public comment is Greg Gertie. Mr. Gertie, if you could unmute, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Town Council. Okay, good evening, Town Council members. Congratulations to the newly elected Town Council members, Ms. Chris Turkelson and Mr. John Crow. As well, congratulations to the re-elected town councilors. We wish you all the very best and hope you will continue to make wise decisions that will help us build a better Barnstable. We understand that we Barnstable citizens sometimes forget that it isn't easy to be sitting where you are and listening to grievances. We do want to let you all know that we truly appreciate your dedication and your continued public service to our beloved town. Thank you, town councilors. We wish to thank both Ms. Chris Clark and Ms. Betty Lutke for speaking during the 14 November EFSB hearing for the Eversource permit application at Cape Cod Community College. Thank you for the message from Mr. John Crow to the EFSB, read by Mr. Crow's representative that evening. Our main concern tonight... Unmute. Our main concern tonight is what has the town done in response to the 23 November EFSB tentative decision for Park City Wind? Will the town challenge the tentative decision, or will the town file legal action for intervener status? Please note, if you're not yet aware, that it is much harder to appeal a final decision of the EFSB, so time is of the essence. We are quite concerned that the legal department of the town may need additional legal help and have suggested competent outside legal counsel be consulted for any litigation regarding the Park City Wind LLC and Eversource matter before the EFSB. We have sent emails to the town officials, including Ms. Karen Nober, about this EFSB matter, but have not received any responses until now. Good luck to all of you and warmest best wishes to you and your families. Stay safe and be well.
Thank you, Mr. Gertie.
Next is Ellen Nozel. Ellen, you can unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. Good evening. I'm Ellen Nozel from Centerville. First, I'd like to offer my congratulations and welcome to the new town council members and to the returning members, and we look forward to many productive activities together with the town. I just am, because I've been in the Zoom holding pen, I'm not really sure what has been said on public comment yet. However, I just wanted to weigh in on the issue of the fact that with the Park City Wind permit application that's pending before the Energy Facilities Siting Board, there has been a tentative decision. The town has asked for good cause standing in their application to be an intervener. However, having scanned the 300-plus page document that's part of the tentative decision, it tells me enough to know that the tentative decision requires, among other things, many zoning ordinances which are designed to protect our community against such encroachments must be ignored according to the state dictate on that. Does the town plan to participate in Monday's meeting in Boston or on Zoom in any way in order to defend the application for this intervener status, which is full of very important information and very important reasons that the siting board should at very least postpone their decision and hopefully turn down the decision for Park City Wind. So if that's the case, is the town planning to accept the terms of the final decision, assuming they're the same as the one in the tentative decision, especially in light of the fact that many, if not all, of the town's concerns have been ignored at this point. And that's very interesting to see. And I just quote from this town's application for interveners status. It says the town's position is that the board should set a performance date for PCW to demonstrate that it has all federal permits in hand, that it has a valid and binding power purchase agreement for its renewable energy output, and that it has binding financial commitments sufficient to assure the board that the project will be completed in a timely manner. It has none of those things in hand. So I guess my question, and some other people have the same one, is where does the town plan to move on this action that is coming up, just like they did the day before the Thanksgiving break? They're putting this into the Christmas season to make it hard for people to participate. So that would be my question, and hopefully in the response to comments, we can answer some of these questions. I appreciate that very much, and I wish you a good evening. Thank you.
We have one more. It'll just be a second.
Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, Jennifer, you're all set to speak.
Perfect. Thank you. So I just wanted to mirror some comments made by the other young woman who is a resident of Independence area and also the worker at Cape Cod Hospital. As a lifelong resident of the Cape, I'm in my mid-40s. I also work in healthcare. I've left the Cape and I'm trying to come back with my 2 young children. And for me, housing is first and foremost one of the largest challenges on the Cape. Cost of living plus the outrageous interest rates right now are really a challenge for new families. They're a challenge for healthcare workers. They're just a challenge, period, for anyone who isn't lucky enough to have a house grandfathered to them. Some of us OG residents of the Cape, I know we all have an aversion to change. We love the quaintness of the Cape. everyone inherently is resistant to change in work, in life, in everything, but times are changing around us. And in order for us to have this town last with all the services that our community needs, healthcare and staffing for basic amenities and services, we need to change with the times. We, the Cape, town of Barnstable, we're not unique in this. This is a challenge and a crisis that the entire nation is facing, especially in small towns with seasonal travel, be it, Florida, the Cape and the Islands, ski countries across the U.S. And we really should look to those areas that were hit 5 years ago and see how they have modified and adapted to those new needs and what's working and what's not. For the people that are, they really want that quaintness and the aesthetics of the Cape to last. I am one of those people, but there are tasteful ways to do it. And there are also ways that are builder grade properties that nobody wants to look at that are toxic to the environment. And having a town council that supports the change is the first step in making sure that that change is done the way that the constituents and the people that live here want it to be done. I also just want to say that now, to me, I know that there's been a big turnaround in the town council with this last election. And I don't believe strongly that it's time for changing of the guard. I think it's time for action for all of the folks up there today that are our elected officials. The council members who know the course need to stay the course. And we all need to embrace change. As a professional in healthcare management, I also want to acknowledge and recognize that that this type of change takes time and dedication and collaboration. And I really respect and appreciate this town council. They have supported it. They are trying to work towards it in a way that not only supports the 1% of constituents who actually show up to these meetings and vote, but they're trying to get consensus from the other 99%. And I think Matt Levesque and his team have done a really great job. And I'd like to see them stay the course. And I want to thank you all for your time and dedication to keeping our town prosperous and to allow myself and young families to have an opportunity to live here and to work here. And thank you all so much.
That's all we have for online public comment.
Thank you for that, Ms. Beal. Okay, been a robust amount of public comment, which is great. Thank you for everybody for participating. Really appreciate it. And now it's time for a council response to public comment. So I'm looking to my right. Anybody like to respond to public comment? Councilor Schnepp, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight. A good blend of issues that are very important to our community. Obviously, very timely regarding the EFSB decision that is coming up on Monday. Housing definitely still remains a huge priority. We need to make things happen, and I'm committed to making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schnepp. Councilor Lucky, please.
Yeah, I'll echo what Paul has said, that and a really good mix of speakers tonight with some great issues. I always appreciate the citizens groups that have organized to help bring forward the issues associated with the wind farms. I know that's a big part of our town manager's report, and I hope that we have some robust discussion from Mr. Els. And I will say I think this is a very dynamic process. There isn't a day go by that we get more than a few emails from constituents concerning this and keeping the process moving forward. And I think it's a really important lesson that we've learned over the last few months with the meeting of the voters and how this project was approached at the beginning and where it is now. And it's a good lesson for all of us. Chuck Tuttle, I really appreciate your comments about the civility and not attacking each other. I wish I'd spoken up during public comment. I thought it was, the commenter used the phrase inappropriate, and I thought her comments were inappropriate to do a personal attack. I was on the phone earlier with Ms. Mort today and listening to her concerns, And I think I regret that I didn't speak up at the time because I think that was inappropriate. And just when Mr. Tuttle had made a beautiful comment about that, I think it goes to both sides that we have to appreciate what we have to say. And we had some very, very differing voices here today, and they all have to be understood and appreciated. Bob Jones, as always, I always call you just the finest gentleman out there. We're talking about the steamship a little later on the agenda, and we certainly appreciate your comments. And I wrote down, you said that the islands don't want to be overpowered by the mainland. Well, perhaps the mainland doesn't want to be overpowered by the islands. And that's what this is all about. Susan Moran's bill is about equity in voting. And I think we just had an election here, and equity in voting and equity in decisions is critical. So I'm happy that we have that on the agenda, writing in support of that bill. And just again, you know, as Paula said, so many comments, a lot of comments about the housing and how that dovetails with the employment and the work. And many people have said, you know, when the Cape Cod Commission was formed, a lot of their charter had to do with the economy. The economy and the housing go hand in hand. And we had some comments about the seasonal economy, and that's always been part of this resort area that we live in. So it's a very difficult task, and not to mention later on the agenda when we talk about housing, the residential exemption, and appreciate the comments on that and the detailed analysis. And I will say, and I'll say more when we bring to that agenda item, but just some people may leave, that the residential exemption was not brought forward by the town council. It was brought forward in 2004 by a citizen group with the acronym FAIR, and they were talking about fair taxation. And they brought it forward, and there was a subcommittee formed, and they brought together proposals for the town council, and the town council rejected those proposals. So what was then done, it was put as a non-binding ballot question for the voters. And the voters overwhelmingly supported it at 70% to vote for this. So that's why, again, I'm always appreciative of the citizens' organizations, because they bring great value to the town. And when you organize and you study and you really look at these things, it helps us make our better decisions. So, you know, just, you know, an example there, and that's how we got it, and that's why it hasn't changed, because there hasn't been any citizen effort on that. But I think the town council perhaps needs to take that and do make a jump this evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Key. Councilor Clark, please.
Thank you very much, President Levesque. And I too welcome and appreciate the comments for the diverse amount of information that our citizens provided to us today by at public comment. I will put in a plug for the Meals on Wheels, and I thank those who participate, especially the woman who's in charge, who has done a remarkable job spearheading this over the years without any recognition. I forgot her name. John Taylor. Carol, that's who. Carol Kemp. But Don Taylor is the person who is identified as the contact person. If I wrote down the number correctly, it's 508-394-3640. And is that correct? 46. Thank you, 4630. Thank you. And they are looking for volunteers. You pick a day, Monday through Friday, and pick up the delivery by 9:30. And typically your shift is over, depending on how long the route is, around noontime. So if I have any mistakes, please let me know. But thank you for that, for the service for all those who do the regular job without any fanfare or recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Clark. Anybody in public comment response to my left? Anybody? Councilor Crowe, please.
Thank you, President Levesque. I also want to thank everybody for their comments tonight. There were a number on the the wind farm issue, and I just want to thank everybody who's been involved for so long on those issues, and I think it's really been a boon to the town as far as information to the public, that you all are bringing that information out so that the constituents can know what's exactly going on, and I think that's important to continue. I think we'll have some decisions to make up here, but I think the more information from both the public and from experts is always appreciated. So thank you all for doing that. I'll be really quick. There's a number of people talked about housing, and I want you to know that I think a lot of people here are open-minded about that, and some of the new people are also. And we want to see some action on housing and to meet some of the needs we have here within the character of what we have for our community. And I think that can be done, and I have an open mind about being a contributor to that. So I agree there's an urgency, and I think we should move forward with it. As for getting back to sort of a little bit of the affordable housing deal, I think the tax levy conversation will be, it actually is a good argument to have, or a good discussion to have tonight. I think some of the changes we can make in that will actually make it more affordable on a yearly basis to, especially those who are of lower means and to afford their homes. So I appreciate you all coming and speaking tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Anybody else? Councilor Turkelson, please.
I just would like to, excuse me, echo some of the comments related to how people feel when they come before this council, within this council. I stand here today to be a person who I think if we have issues, it shouldn't be with the people. We should look at the process. If we're not happy with how something is working here, let's not attack each other. Let's find common ground and look towards the process. How can we make that better for all of us? Part of the reason I ran was some of the things I was seeing. As a resident, I don't have a long history with the government here. I don't have a lot of the backstory of what goes on. I'm here to be the resident agent, so I'd like us to all be open-minded and put down our swords and work together. I think that that's really important. We have old people coming together with new people, so it's a real task here, but that's what everybody is speaking to us. I think we need to take that to heart. And I think that needs to be a thread that really runs through everything we do here. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turkelson. Anyone else? Response to public comment? Again, just want to say thank you for all those who participated, and I look forward to a robust conversation in regards to our residential tax exemption. It is something that's been brought up a number of times, and also specifically, actually, in regards to when we talk about a debt exclusion override. We've talked about that, and we'll get to that when the time comes. And then also for all those who offer information about the wind farm. And Mr. Carroll, we wish I could give you 10 minutes sometimes. You know what I mean? I know it's you work very hard to give us the information, and but I do. Again, appreciate every time you come, and please do, if you can put that in some sort of presentation, get it to Cynthia Lovell, our administrative assistant, and she'll make sure she gets it out to the full council. So thank you very much. And Mr. Jones, as always, your service to the Steamship Authority and your knowledge, and just so appreciative of that. And all those who came out to speak in regards to housing, obviously, I think it's a secret. It's a passion of mine to be able to find some equitable opportunity for those to find a place to live where they work here in Barnstable. And so appreciate everybody doing that. And Beth Wade for the Habitat, and all of those who participated. And if I'm forgetting somebody, I apologize. But Ms. Mock always participating, Asia, Ms. Mort. We will do our very best to work together to try to represent Barnstable in the best way possible. So thank you very much for everybody's participation. So with that, I will close public comment, and we will move up to the town manager communications. I just have a quick little announcement to make about the town manager communications. The town manager's report has been pre-recorded and is available to town council and the public. The report will be prepared in written form and posted on the town manager website as in the past. The town manager and staff will be available to answer any questions regarding the report as presented. The town manager's communications for the period of November 15th, through December 6th, 2023, included an update on 1. update on budget action calendar. 2, notice of upcoming town council meeting regarding setting the tax rate. 3, updated on public comment period closing relative to proposed dog control regulations. Number 4, update on Eversource hearing on November 14th, 2023 regarding the Mid-Cape Reliability Project. Number 5, response prepared by Barnstable Legal Department to a question regarding the Energy Facilities Siting Board, also known as EFSB, and Barnstable intervenor status on the Park City Wind project. Number 6, update on use of opioid litigation funds. 7, announcement by the Department of Public Works regarding construction commencing on December 8th on West Main Street from Route 28 to Strawberry Hill Road. Number 8, announcement that the town of Barnstable has been awarded the Community of the Year by the Massachusetts chapter of the American Planning Association. And number 9, update from Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning and Development, who will provide an update on local comprehensive plan and the local comprehensive plan committee. So those are the items that were mentioned in the town manager's report. And now it is time for the town councilors to ask any questions to the town manager or his staff in regards to that town manager report. So now I would now look to my left and ask if there's any questions for the town manager or anybody in the staff. Councilor Crowe, please.
Thank you, President Levesque. I want to thank Mark Ells for providing the information about the decision not to intervene in the state's Energy Facilities Siting Board in the Park City Wind case. I have a few comments and questions. I'm going to put them all out here for you now, and I welcome your response. First, so we're all on the same page, intervening means preserving the town's rights to protect the community. Not intervening means giving up the right to speak up to protect the community before anyone knows how things will unfold, because no one can predict the future. The rights are to do things like ask questions, to give facts, to raise concerns or objections, and to appeal. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the Park City case 3 years ago, the town chose not to preserve its rights. It asked for the right to raise issues just a few weeks ago, right before the state issued a tentative decision from the EFSB. We still don't know whether the state will hear the town or not at this point. Respectfully, I think it was a mistake not to preserve the town's rights, and I want to understand how it happened for going forward purposes. I read the town manager report. I understand a rationale was that there was a host agreement, but a host agreement doesn't mean issues or concerns or new facts will not come up during the EFSB process. Can we have both a host community agreement and preserve the rights of the public at the same time? I don't think we need to choose between those two. I don't know if you spoke to the council about a decision not to intervene, or if you plan to going forward, or if that was a management decision or a legal department decision. I would like to express that I, for one, believe the town should intervene in all cases before the EFSB about energy infrastructure proposed to be located in this town in order to preserve its rights to protect our community. If there is an impediment to that, a good reason not to preserve the town's rights, I would like to have the benefit of a discussion about that to understand the rationale. Now that the town did not intervene in Park City, in large part because there was a host community agreement, the town manager report says on Commonwealth Wind, the town will absolutely intervene as soon as it is feasible to do so. Commonwealth Wind was filed with EFSB over a year ago. I would like to understand why the town has not intervened yet or to this point. I would also like to understand what as soon as it is feasible to do so means. What has made it infeasible over the past year, and what would make it feasible now? If there is a budget issue or something you need to, from the town council that has made it infeasible, please let us know about that. Bring it to us. My point is not to Monday morning quarterback or to micromanage. My interest is in making sure we protect our community's rights. And if your legal advice is not to preserve those rights, to have a discussion about that in advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crowe. Anybody else on this side? Anybody else on this side? Town manager, Councilor Snap?
Thank you, President Levesque. I just want to make a comment regarding number 6, which is regarding the public outreach program that is going to commence sometime early in 2024 regarding the opioid settlement dollars. I'm very happy that the town has made progress on that. And I'm also excited that the consultant chosen led a very successful project in Falmouth as well. So please keep us updated on next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schnapp. Councilor Lucky?
Yes, I wanted to hear a little bit about the dog regulations. My question on that, it seems to be the beaches that are the sticking point. And I think there was some outcry when we talked about the cutoff of April 1st. And I know this past summer was somewhat troublesome with the seaweed and the issues there with the plovers. And of course, we can't have the fireworks. You know, we can't rake. We can't do this. There's a lot of things going on in our beaches. And at the same time, that's probably our number one draw here, those beautiful beaches that we have in Barnstable, both north and south on both sides. And my question really to Mr. Ells, and I haven't written a comment, but I will tomorrow, is have we factored in time as a component? And my question there is, instead of, you've gone to the degree of a month, but have you gone to hours and minutes? And I think about in the summer months, and as it gets more light, and a lot of people are walking the dogs. I'm a dog walker on the beach myself, and I'm normally out there in the summer at 5 a.m., and there aren't any bathers out there. Usually I run into fishermen and things like that. Could we look at, in these regulations, kind of meeting at a place where we could have the dog walkers out there from 5 to 9 to 5 to 8 a.m., without doing any harm to the bathers or the other, recreational things that happen more during the daylight hours? I mean, we do have the parking lots closed. I think back, just a quick story, is one of the jobs I had was developing policy for our air ranges in the Air Force that are throughout the United States, and especially over the waterways, especially on the eastern seaboard. And they cause a lot of conflict with commercial airliners, especially on the eastern seaboard, going from the Northeast down to Florida. And there's a huge component of time that we release that airspace so that, it gets very complicated. But time is an essential component, I think, when you're dealing with a limited resource and a valid or a very important resource as our beaches are. And I hope we can look at that, and that might satisfy if the people are there, then they're impacting the plovers during the day. So why couldn't the people be walking their dogs perhaps earlier? Just something I'd like to throw out there and hear if we've ever considered a time component.
Would you like to address that?
Yes, good evening. Mark Ells, Town Manager. Congratulations to all of you. I'll start with Mr. Crows. Councilor Crow, please. Thank you for the question. I think within that there was also an offer that he made tonight as well to help make clear policy relevant to how we discuss this as we move through these decisions. What I'd like to do, you asked a lot of questions there. I'd like to take them under review and then provide you an answer at next council meeting, if that's okay. Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me one second, how many shows?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab, are you videoing by any chance? Okay, thank you. Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you for warning me.
Yeah. Well, it was just, like I said in the beginning of the meeting, so just making sure.
And so I did work with legal to provide that response. You didn't ask a specific question, but one of the public comment people did, that we are commenting on Monday. And I will work with legal in the preparation of what we will say on Monday at the EFSB hearing. Secondly, well, thank you for the comments on the opioid. Mark Milne is coordinating that effort, though there are many people participating in it. I believe the process we will set up will allow us to appropriately distribute the funds. I did put the amount we have already, but we're looking at a decade to a decade and a half, potentially, of funds coming in. So we want to make sure we're very thoughtful in how we proceed with this. Relevant to the dog regulations, I have Assistant Town Manager Clyburn here, but certainly I think one of the important things to remember is, last April we went into discussions about rare and endangered species designations on several of our beaches. And a big part of why change to times are occurring is a result of that. I think residents are viewing it as It might be bathers, or it might be other uses. It's directly linked to what we're being required to do under the rare and endangered species designation, and therefore, for us to get permits to continue to use it for all those things that we use it for, we need to really have a more controlled use during certain times of the year that they specify. These aren't dates that we've made up. So what I'm doing at this point, and then I'll ask Assistant Town Manager Clyburn, as he's been hands-on managing this with our staff, we're going to take all of the comments under review. We're going to relook at what we have in our regulations, and we're going to try to be as mindful of keeping as many beaches open for use, maybe even more use than we currently have. But in some cases, we are going to have to expand on limitations to meet what the requirements of that Rare and Endangered Species Act are. So, Andy, did you have anything? Well, thank you. Thank you. Oh, one thing that did not come up, I got a late communication from Public Works Department relevant to their notice about the detour that was planned to occur beginning on Friday on West Main, from 28 down to Strawberry Hill. That will not occur. That will occur, it's to be scheduled in the future after the holiday at this point. So just wanted everybody to know that. There'll be more information coming out, but I got that late in the day, and I said it in my town manager report because I know everybody's fatigued by the construction and the detouring, and a little bit of good news.
Thank you, Town Manager Ellis.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Councilor Clark.
Thank you very much, President Levesque, and thank you very much, Town Manager Ellis. Is it possible for you to share with the public this message that the councilors received from the legal department with some clarification about the response to the Energy Facility Siting Board that Attorney LaRosa had written very eloquently for us to understand more fully what was going on legally. Thank you.
He is here, and he can certainly do that.
Question is to make sure that it's available for the public to see if, as long as there's no violation.
Oh, okay, sure. So we'll provide it, you're looking for us to post it on the website. Is that what you're asking? Yeah, sure, Tom, come on.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Tom LaRosa, First Assistant Town Attorney. Sorry about that. Is that better?
Just please give us a little recap of what we received that the public has yet to be aware.
What you received today was we tried to do this. The FSB issued their 232-page tentative decision, so we try to provide you a summary on kind of a recap of kind of the key provisions on that. That related to that the Energy Facility Siting Board found that, basically in issuing their tentative decision that they found that the project met the need and the statutory purposes for what they would approve the project for, that the tentative decision would grant, approve zoning exemptions that would essentially override a number of town provisions of the town zoning ordinances, so that related to the route and the substation at Chute Flying Hill Road that would allow the project to basically go forward. They inserted provisions related to the concerns as to noise, along the route at the substation, and the board inserted a requirement that within 120 days, if the facility becomes operational, that they would follow up with actual noise modeling to make sure that it meets what was modeled in their permitting requirements. They otherwise accepted that the project would minimize impacts for noise, magnetic fields, impacts on groundwater, things of that sort. We submitted comments to to the Energy Facilities Siting Board. Some of those respond to comments submitted the day before on the 5th from Park City Wind. We asked for a few things there, particularly for the for electromagnetic fields, for example. We had asked that, similar to what was done with noise, that there would be a follow-up with actual testing annually to confirm that it meets the modeled results. At the substation, we had asked, there's, if foam is used with PFAS that is in it for fire suppression, that there's better coordination with, stepping back, the Energy Facilities Siting Board stated its preference for a non-PFAS foam. But if, PFAS, a foam with PFAS is actually, better and meets DEP regulations, it's possible for that to be used. And we asked for, we expressed our concern on that, and that we want to coordinate, be plugged in on the coordination on those type of issues. So we, again, the decision was 232 pages, very detailed. So as we're going through that, we were pleased to see some things that were in our motion to intervene that we were concerned about, that were already addressed in the tentative decision, such as the containment systems that for Chute Flying Hill Road substation that are proposed, that were covered in the host community agreement, that those provisions were adopted in the decision. So, that there were some things that, it took some while to review the 232-page decision, but there were at least things that we were responding to that that we didn't respond to in our comments because they were addressed in, what we had asked for in our petition for things of that sort, that they were for containment systems, to make sure that they're in the decision. They were in the decision. Sorry, it took me a little bit to get that out. So those were kind of the overarching points of the key aspects of the decision we were trying to get out.
Thank you very much. I also am welcoming the opportunity to have that document available to the public. Thank you.
Certainly, you can put that on the website.
Thank you very much, Chair Lewis. I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Councilor Clark. Any other question in regards to town manager report? Okay, just want to say thank you very much for that thorough report. And again, people can watch online, but I did want to just give a shout out to our planning department and our director of planning and development in the back of the room, Elizabeth Jenkins, and your team. I believe there's a celebration tomorrow up in, is it Concord, Lexington? Concord, right? And Community of the Year Award for Massachusetts Chapter of American Planning Association, and teams heading up there to receive that award for the town of Barnstable. So congratulations, and appreciate all your efforts in regards to that. So thank you. Safe travels as you head up to the Freedom Trail. So with that, it is now time to act on the minutes. Councilor Schnepp, if you wouldn't mind, please. You have lots of experience there, helping me there. If you could help me act on the minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request approval of the minutes of the Town Council meeting held on November 16th, 2023.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and do we have any discussion in regards to those minutes?
I have a question.
Yes.
Those of us who were not present are allowed to vote, or no? Do we need to recuse ourselves? I mean, abstain. Not recuse, but abstain.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So we're able to vote?
If you'd like to, yes.
Okay.
Especially if you reviewed them.
Of course I did.
And I think
Thank
you were, and I think you were present for that meeting. So, you know what I mean? So it's not like you. So with that, this is our first exercise to actually vote as a new council. So with that, council, I would ask for you to signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. If you'd like to vote on this measure.
Aye.
And is there any abstentions? Abstain. We have one abstention. Okay. There we have it. Thank you very much. First vote. Thank you very much. So with that, thank you. And now it is time for communications from elected officials, boards, committees, staff, commission reports, correspondence, and announcements. So looking to my left, would any council like to make a communication or announcement? I know we've gotten through some of our Christmas strolls, so, okay, just making sure. Councilor Lucky, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to make mention that today is Pearl Harbor Day. I think a lot of people, that's gone into the past, and maybe that speaks to Rob Brennan's comments tonight. After 9/11, Pearl Harbor Day seemed to shrink into the history books, but it was an important, and you mentioned John F. Kennedy, who served in World War II, and most of our World War II veterans are sadly gone, just a few remaining. So that's what I just wanted to say today, is it is Pearl Harbor Day.
A day that will live in infamy. Thank you for that, Councilor Lucky. Councilor Penn, please.
Yes, I just want to say this goes along with our Planning and Development awards. Planning and Development Department is working on, or starting to work on, a long overdue, in my opinion, Master Hyannis Harbor Plan. I hate saying Harbor Master Plan because they all think it's a plan for the Harbor Master. So I rearranged the words, sorry.
Wordsmithing.
Yeah, Master Hyannis Harbor Plan meeting. So if you want to attend, I believe there's 2 planning sessions. One's at 10 o'clock, one's at noon time on Wednesday this coming. That's 12/14. And I think you probably should get in touch with Kyle in the Planning and Development Department if you'd like to attend or if you want more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Penn. Councilor Tamish, please.
Just as a correction, Mr. President, the Christmas strolls are not over yet.
No, I didn't. I said we're getting through the Christmas strolls. I know we have one more.
We have 2 more, actually. I don't know if John wanted to or Mr. Crow wanted to address one, but the Centerville one is Sunday afternoon from 3 to 6 on Main Street, Centerville.
Thank you, sir. With that, did you want to take that cue, Councilor Crow? Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Schnapp, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to announce 2 breakfasts coming up imminently that might be of interest to our councilors. One is tomorrow morning at 7:30. It's the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association, and you are all members. And Councilor Clark, you might remember what's actually on the agenda. It's dredging. Thank you, Councilor Tamish. So that might be of interest to members. And then on Monday is the Barnstable County Human Rights Breakfast, which is from 8:30 to 10:30. Those are both being held at the, is it Emerald Resort now? Okay, at the Emerald Resort just around the corner. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schnapp. Anybody else? Announcements here? Councilor Neary, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I just wanted to get some information out to the public. You know, there was a conversation earlier today regarding our sole source aquifer, and we had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Laurel Scheider some months back from Silent Springs Institute. And frankly, I think it was over 2 years ago, maybe even more. They came and they tested many of the wells in West Barnstable, and those results are now starting to come in to the specific people who were fortunate enough to get those samples placed. I've seen some of the reports, and, well, they're eye-opening. So please, if you've had it done, check your emails, check your spam folders. You may have some results that have come in, and, you know, to make you aware of the PFAS concerns that are in our basically everywhere, water supplies. So just something to look for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Neary. And just to, I know it was passed and we talked about Christmas strolls, but congratulations to a successful Christmas stroll for Barnstable Village. It's just, I call it the Christmas block party because it's in a small little area over there in Barnstable Village. Very historic, and it's always a shoulder to shoulder, but I heard it was a great, I didn't get to attend, but I heard it was a great time. And, but I did get to attend, and congratulations to everybody involved in the Hyannis Main Street, Hyannis Holiday Christmas Stroll 2-day event this year. And with a boat lighting, you know, if they're here on the Village Green Friday night with a sing-along, and this sip and shop event that was well attended. Obviously, we were blessed with some great weather as well. And then on Saturday, the stroll that coincided with the Love Live Local Festival and the boat parade that was very well attended. And congratulations to everybody in regards to that was involved in that. The Business Improvement District, Elizabeth Worf-Bain, again, Elizabeth Jenkins, Planning Department, and Amanda and Jen with Love Live Local and everybody involved with that. So just want to say thank you to everybody and congratulations on successful events. So with that, it is the end, I believe, of our council communications. So at this point in time, if we could, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break and come back and start the orders of the day. Thank you very much. like to welcome everybody back to the December 7th Town Council meeting. We are going to begin our orders of the day. Council Nerig, please, if you could. Item number 2024-067.
My pleasure, Mr. President. I won't be late. Back to my seat again. This is old business, requiring a public hearing and a roll call majority vote. It's item number 2024-067. It's an allocation of tax levy for fiscal year 2024 and a residential exemption, as written.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we have our financial director of finance, Mark Milne, here for us to give us a brief rationale in regards to this, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Mark Milne, Director of Finance for the town of Barnstable, and congratulations on your election. I have a few slides this evening. I'm going to recap what Director Partridge presented to you at your last meeting. We'll start with the residential exemption. First of all, I just want just a little background here about the tax levy. The tax levy is really set at the time we adopt the budget. That's when we determine how much we're going to raise, and it has to be within that Proposition 2.5 limitation. So our tax levy for fiscal year 24 is $145,231,000. Our total assessed values, we have received certification of our property assessed values from the Department of Revenue since the last town council meeting, and they are approved at $24,524,000,000. So we divide that into the tax levy, multiply by 1,000 because tax rates are stated in terms of $1,000, and our tax rate for fiscal year 24 is $5.92, which is down from the previous year. So that's before any tax levy shifting options. How does that tax levy get allocated? It gets allocated based on the value of each class of property. Residential property makes up about 90% of our total property value, so about 90% of that tax, $145 million tax levy, gets allocated to the residential class. So, and it's been around that percentage for a number of years. It's 87 was the lowest I've ever seen it, but it's approaching 90% because of the real strong real estate market over the past few years. So the first item before you on your agenda this evening is whether or not to continue with a residential exemption option. This option shifts the tax levy, or that $130 million residential tax levy, within just the residential class. It does not affect the commercial, industrial, or personal property classes. It moves some property taxes from moderately valued properties to owners of vacation homes, higher valued homes in town, and residential properties not occupied by the owner, as well as apartments in vacant lands. Some of the characteristics of the communities that you see on this list here of who adopted residential exemption last year are usually large cities or towns that have many non-owner occupied properties, like apartment buildings, Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, etc., and resort communities with many seasonal residents, like you see here on the Cape Cod. There's several communities here listed on Cape Cod. These are the only communities right now that currently adopt a residential exemption, with Barnstable being one. So how do we calculate the residential exemption? We take that residential value of $22 billion, we divide it by the total residential parcels in town of 25,706, and that gives you an average residential value. Using the percentage that was approved for fiscal year 23 of 20%, the FY24 exemption value using that same percentage is $171,450. So that would be taken off every qualifying property owner's assessed value prior to the tax being calculated. We have 11,247 properties currently eligible for the exemption. That number changes every day. We locked it down a couple of days ago at that number. I'm sure we'll have more applications come in between now and the time the tax bills are due. So what happens is you multiply that 171,000 by the 11,247 eligible properties, and that means almost $2 billion of residential property does not become subject to tax. So what does that do? That ups the tax rate or increases the tax rate for the residential class only. So the net value tax, 108 million, ends up, we have a residential levy of $130 million. You divide that into the adjusted residential value, and we end up with a $6.49 tax rate for the residential class. This slide illustrates at various valuations the difference between a property that doesn't qualify for the residential exemption and one that does qualify for the residential exemption using that 20% figure. Now, the blue bar shows the tax bill for a property if we had no residential exemption. The gold bar represents, or the orange bar represents, the tax bill for a qualifying property with a 20% residential exemption. And you can see the difference between the tax bill diminishes as the property value goes up. Again, this is a progressive taxing shifting option that provides more tax relief to lower valued homes until you get to the break-even point of $1,950,000, meaning that a residential property owner who qualifies for the residential exemption at that value receives no benefit from that residential exemption. Even though they qualify, they're still going to pay the same amount of tax if you had no exemption or if you adopted a 20% residential exemption. The gray bar on the end shows what the tax bill is for a non-qualifying property at each one of these values. And you can see the difference between that and the orange bar is always the same, because that's the value of the residential exemption, which is $1,116. This slide illustrates what if the residential exemption were to change anywhere from 0% to 35%, which is the maximum amount. Line 11 shows you what the tax rates, resulting tax rates would be under each one of these different percentages. At that 20% residential exemption on line 15, the savings over no exemption is illustrated on line 15 again, or $785. If you were to go from 20% to 25%, line 16 shows the incremental savings of increasing it by 5%, or it would be an additional $220. And this is based on a qualifying property's assessed value of $575,200, which is illustrated on line 12, and that's the median residential value for fiscal year 2024. This is something you can plug in any value you want and you'll get a result from this. I've shared this with you all. I think several of you had taken a look at this and called me about it. So I think hopefully it's clear. I made it clear. And I want to thank you for your questions, by the way, that I received on this, because it helped me provide some more tools to make it more understandable for you, I hope. So, Mr. President, I'll stop there for answering any questions on residential exemption, because the next slides get into the split tax rate option.
Okay. Very good. So actually, this is a public hearing, so I just want to make sure we hear any public comment in regards to that. So would anybody in the hearing room like to speak on this item? Okay, not seeing any. Would anybody like to participate via remote? No? Okay, so I would close the public hearing and open up to council discussion. Any questions to my left for Director Milne in regards to this item? Councilor Starr, please.
Thank you. Mr. Milne, you said that the exemption was worth $1,116?
That's correct.
Does that show up on this graph here? Or?
Yeah, well, you would have to do a little bit of math. I told you there'd be no math tonight. I'm sorry. But if you took the bill at in column B of $3,405 and subtracted the amount in column E on line 14, $2,620.
Okay.
I think that's the difference.
Okay. So my other question or comment was that, so this would lower the tax rate for people who own their own houses. but it would raise the tax rate for people who are renting.
Yes. Yes, because people who rent, if you're not the occupant, if you don't occupy the home, you don't qualify for the residential
Right.
exemption. So rental property does not qualify for the residential exemption.
Okay.
So they don't get the $171,000 reduced off of their assessment before the tax is calculated, but the tax rate goes up.
So if we change it, then renters will pay more.
Yes, the tax bills will go up on residential, or
Yep.
rental
Okay.
properties, you're correct.
Thank you.
Great question, Councilor Starr. Anybody else to my left for questions in regards to this item? Anybody to my right? Councilor Clark, please.
Thank you very much, President Levesque. And I have a question for you. Thank you very much, Director Milne. Is there a way we could construct, piggybacking on Councilor Starr's question, to make allowances for properties that are rented year-round to also be included with the residential exemption? To encourage year-round housing.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. So Provincetown has such a program in place, and the way they did it was through special legislation, because there is no state law that allows any community to do that. You would have to craft special legislation and send it up to the legislature for their approval. So if we wanted to do something similar to that, that's the process we would need to follow.
So if we did something like that, obviously we wouldn't be able to do it this evening. So would it have to take a whole year for it to be enacted?
It depends on the timing of the legislation, when the legislature meets, and if we can get it in. It wouldn't happen this year, but certainly the timing, if we were to file something within the next few months, we could get it on their agenda so that we could have it in place for the following tax year.
I would be in.
Council Mendes, please.
Yeah, thank you, President Levesque. Do you know the percentage of homes that are non-owner occupied in town?
Non-owner occupied, it's about 56 to 44%.
Follow up?
Please.
So 50%, 56% of the homes will get a bump in their taxes?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Mendes. Councilor Lucky, please.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what Councilor Starr and Councilor Clark were talking about, the apartments. Isn't there a differentiation in terms of who's paying the taxes on, are you saying the tenants are paying the taxes or the owners of the?
The owner pays the taxes. It depends on how the lease is written as well. I mean, or the owner could decide to pass that cost on to the tenant in a form of a rent increase. But it's the owner of the property that pays the tax.
But the owner also, Mark, they're not subject to the same thing the homeowners are with the market value. Theirs is based on their income?
No, it's residential property, so it's valued based on being a residential property. It's not a business property.
It's not a
commercial
business property.
No, we have to
Okay.
value residential we have to value apartments as residential property.
Okay, so that's
rental
different.
properties.
Okay, and then, I too would support what Chris Clark is saying. And I think we would look at that, maybe not for the large apartment complexes, but for the smaller ones that I think there would be some discussion on that, I think. I don't know if it would be, because we have so many large apartment complexes in our town.
And I think Provincetown's program is modeled after, it targets single-family homes.
Exactly, something like that, or duplexes perhaps, something like that, I think would be more appropriate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lucky. Councilor Penn, please.
Yes, thank you. I also strongly support pursuing the Provincetown model. When I read about that in the paper a little while ago, I thought it was brilliant. And obviously for single-family homes, I think we would have to start there, because I would love to incentivize year-round rentals. That is the whole point. And obviously, if they can save money, maybe they'll think about it. They wouldn't make as much as if they were doing more rentals, short-term rentals, but it's a step in the right direction. And if we can incentivize year-round rentals, that's a good thing to do. Also, I just have a long-term concern that's not necessarily dealing with this, but I notice our contribution from residential is close to 90%, as close as you can get without being at 90%. And that's a big concern of mine going forward with the high-end houses being on the shore and they're being in high-risk areas with sea level rise, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very long-term kind of thing, but we're going to be assuming a lot more risk with that in the long term, and we need to look at rebalancing that, redistributing that burden somehow to other classifications of property. So I'm just throwing that out there as an observation. I noticed an article the other day said the statewide average for residential contributions for this analysis was 60% in other communities. And for us being at 90%, that just kind of put a red flag up for me that we've got a big risk there. So just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Tamish, please.
Mr. Milne, we had discussed via email raising the percentage. And you made the comment that you were looking for some of the higher percentages perhaps to be as a safety valve for when the sewer bonding costs kick in to try to mitigate some of them. I'm in favor of increasing it. If we increased it to 25%, for example, that would still give some flexibility for the future to try to mitigate those costs. Is that correct?
Yes, you would still have that 10% window from 25 to 35% to use that. And that was a strategy that we had discussed with the previous council to help with offsetting a portion of that, any debt exclusion override vote that would be needed to fund the comprehensive wastewater management plan, because we're looking in a few years of having to do that. We have almost $500 million of project costs before us for the next 5 years. And we don't have the resources to fund all of that. And so at some point in the near future, we're going to be looking for a debt exclusion override to continue with the implementation of that program in the timeline that we currently are trying to follow. So if you match up the timing of a debt exclusion override with an increase in the residential exemption, you can offset most of that tax bill increase with that increase in the residential exemption at the same time to mitigate any impact on residential properties who are domiciled here in Barnstable.
So if we went up to 25, for example, this year, according to this chart, that would result in a $220 tax savings per parcel, but it'd still give us the option of going up to 30 or 35%, which correspond to $231 and a $246 savings. So there is some more flexibility there for the future if needed.
Yeah, there's more flexibility there, but to give you a kind of a sense as to how much flexibility that represents, about $250 million in loans would result in about a $12 to $13 million annual loan payment that gets added to the tax levy, and that's about the same amount of money that you see going up 5%. So you lose about $250 million of capacity for the CWMP if you take the 5% now. But it's your decision, it's the council's decision, it's tax policy, and we just wanted to bring to your attention that was a strategy that we've been talking about with the previous council.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Councilor,
That's okay.
Councilor Schnapp, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll get right back to you.
Mark, could you speak a little bit to the variables that go into somebody's experience of their real estate taxes? I mean, I think there's been a number of people who have felt that the tax burden has been going up recently, and I'm not sure that that's equally felt among our residents because of the way property is valued and where it's located.
Our experience over the past few years has been waterfront property, both inland waterfront property and oceanside waterfront property, has risen at a much higher percentage increase than inland property, your more modest neighborhoods. In fact, in 2023, we had over 7,000 residential properties see a decline in their tax bill, even though their assessments went up. But because the tax rate went down so much, they actually saw a decline in their tax bill. But the residential property increases that we are experiencing, and again, it's more in '24 as well, has been on the water side properties and properties within close vicinity to water, because that's where sales have indicated the growth, most of the growth to be. But we're still seeing in the inland modest neighborhoods as well.
Of course, another aspect of our taxes are the assessment by our water and fire districts, which can vary from year to year and can have an impact on someone's total tax bill.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, it was a large increase, if you recall, last year in one of our fire districts that significantly impacted that district.
Anybody else have a question on to my right? Okay, going to my left, Councilor Turkelson.
I hear a lot of the history of kind of keeping like this buffer for when we need to do the tax override, but it hasn't come yet, and we don't know exactly when it's going to come. So I feel like people are really in a financial pickle already. The economy hasn't been great. We heard from Hector, his wife's experience driving, and this rate hasn't changed ever. So I'm wondering what the theory would be to not be increasing this. If we look at a lot of the other towns, they have increased theirs, and they're at 30 or 35%. So I would be more inclined to allow people to have their money now so that they can live their lives more fruitfully in our towns, spend their money here, and maintain their quality of life, and maybe not be living so on the edge. Instead of, it's almost like we're withholding something so that we can then give it back to them, so that we can take it back when we have the debt override. It seems like a kind of like a shell game that we keep kind of stringing along, and having never changed it since 2006 just seems crazy to me that we've had this opportunity to give money back to our residents, and we haven't been gracious about that.
Well, it's certainly a decision that you could make this evening to do so.
Thank you.
Councilor Crowe, please.
Yeah, I have a question on the timing also. I understand the reason behind it, and like I said, it might help people right now. And what I see here is there's a big difference in the amount of exempt properties or qualifying properties than the ones that are non-qualifying right now. So 14,000 is more than actually the qualifying, the difference. And so we seem to have a lot of part-time residents here, and I think that's always been the case. So as for I want to go back to the apartment complexes. We had another counselor talked about the large complexes versus the other. I think we're trying to, a lot of us like to try for year-round residents, whether they be in large complexes or not. So how would that work with, I think it would work the same, whether it be a small or large, if we did what you've also talked about, going to the state and having that changed going forward to legislation. And so I think we shouldn't differentiate between large and small properties, and maybe that the owners of large properties will see a not quite as large of a hit if a large percentage of those people are year-round in their apartment buildings, and would keep the rents from going up to a level that'll be more difficult for them to survive here. So,
Councilor Starr, please.
Can I ask a process question?
Absolutely.
So where can we send this? Can we send it to the Housing Committee? Or do we send it to Mr. Milne to take this further, to have somebody look into the Provincetown model and come back and tell us what's feasible?
I would say at this point, it would be something that would, maybe the legal department, and then it's something, again, we'd have to bring up to the legislature as far as that goes.
Well, it won't go to the legislature till it comes back to us. So we need something to come to us. Some kind of...
Go ahead.
If I may.
Director Milne, please.
suggest,
Yes, please.
Perhaps, I've heard a lot of good ideas here tonight, so I would, if I may suggest, maybe a working group
Yes.
of some counselors.
Sure.
Maybe throw some CFAC committee members on there
Yeah.
and staff. And
That's what I would
we
recommend.
can work it all out.
Yeah, and then have a workshop type of thing and take it from there. So again, I think it's important that we look at all, the residential to have the idea that, we have already a lot of single-family year-round rentals. So those landlords would get a tax break if this happens. Is that tax break going to go, and then that money is going to be, again, our tax levy stays the same, right? So I understand what Councilor Turkelson's saying in regards to that we're holding back money. We're actually taxing our non-residents, but they're still taxpayers in our town, and we're taking 20% of that levy and giving it over to them. So in that respect, it's not equal. So we're going to make it more unequal to, which is, again, if that's the council's, but to say that we're holding back money, I don't know if that's the right definition. But so with that, and then going back to the residential, if we give that tax break, are the landlords just going to take that money and put it in their pockets? And so, again, it's just something that, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it's something we can take in consideration. So, I'm sorry? Okay, Councilor Schnapp.
And I was just going to be kind of echoing what Mark had said about,
Right.
I think that this is a little bit more complicated
Right.
than just,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
you raise one lever and then something else over, there's
Right.
consequences to these decisions. And to put it in perspective, I think, Barnstable has been a leader. In
Yes.
fact, many of the other Cape towns have recently come into this program, and we have been, for years in this program. And I think it is a great way to provide some additional equity for our residents. But changing it without some analysis, I'm a little hesitant, even though I am in favor of it probably sooner than later. But I also like to think of all the other pieces that we might want to package. One of the things that's being discussed in the housing bond bill, the state, is the possibility of a transfer fee on transactions that are over, let's say, $1 million or something, which could be used for creating housing. And, again, that's another piece of a possible puzzle to be helping us solve a number of our problems here. And so I'm just not sure I'm ready to vote differently than the 20% tonight, but I'm open to persuasion. So, thank you.
Thank you for that perspective, Councilor Schnapp, and your input in regard to that. And I kind of echo what Councilor Tamish had to say in regards to, maybe we just bump it up and we hold on to a little bit, but let's see where it can go. And there are valuations that have gone up and have burdened our middle class, and like what Mr. Gunther had to say, and so I can definitely respect that in regards to trying to save those who are just starting out or those who are trying to age in place. So there's lots of things to consider moving forward. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to say in regards to this item? Councilor Neary, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's just a quick comment. And I just want to kind of make it clear. Back to the lever. When we enact things like this, there are things that we can hope that can happen, whether it be landlord givebacks, whether it be the non-increase to the people who are just barely affording to live in their current rental. So it's always good to hope, but the reality of the things can be quite different. And again, to Councilor Schnapp's comments, I've looked over, at least during my time that I've been on the council, and it has been a gradual increase, right? And as I've learned dramatically during my time here, that the cost marches on every single year in terms of our budget and the size of the budget and the cost of the services. I remember when I was very young and Proposition 2.5 came out, and my father was at the kitchen table and he was stomping his feet in kind of a way, and he said, "This is awful," because it's to protect the upside, right? We can't go up more than 2.5% unless we legislate. And he said, "You know what's going to happen? There will always be 2.5%, and proof is in the pudding, right?" So, the rental markets, house affordability, home equity, these type of things, it's tricky. I hate taxes going up, but it has been, with this tool that we've been using, it has been moderate in terms of the annual year-over-year increases. And again, this is certainly something I think we can explore and move forward with, and as a group come together and make some decisions on it. And I appreciate, Hector's comments as well in terms of getting us back to 2017. I'd love it, but at the cost of what on the other end is. I think we need to consider all those factors.
Councilor Turkelson, please.
So, Mark, looking at the illustration that we have up here, so the qualifying property assessed value of $575,200, if we went from a 20% tax levy to a 30%, it looks like it increases the savings to the resident by about $450.
Yes.
And then the non-qualifying properties, their increase would be less than $200.
At that value.
At that value. Yeah, and I understand that value changes, but I guess my point about the levers is we're saving residents $450, and we're giving a bill to the non-residents of less than $200. So it's not a direct one-to-one. So I guess I look at it like I understand and recognize the impact on the non-resident valued properties, but we're also giving something to the residents as well. And it's not a one-to-one. It's not like we're saying we're going to take this $450 from the residents and we're going to make the people over here pay that $450. So it's, it's looking also at the 55% of the properties that we would be charging. It's less than I thought it would be actually when I look at that line.
Thank you, Councilor Turkelson. Councilor Crowe, please, and
Just
Councilor
for
Neary.
information, what line are you getting that savings from?
Line 21. If you go to 21F, that's where we're at now. So the increase in their bill from a 20% tax levy is $86. So if we went from 20 to 25, that's another $92 they pay. And then you add $92 plus $98, that would be the total amount a non-qualifying property would pay if we went from a 20% to a 30% tax levy. So it's less than $200.
Yeah, most of the taxes that get shifted go to those higher valued properties, both residential owned one's domiciled here and one's not domiciled here. That's where most of the increase goes, is to the high valued properties.
Correct. Goes up exponentially as you go up. Councilor Neary.
Sorry to drag this out. Just as a follow-up, thank you, Mr. President. It is residents, but renters are residents. So we can't lose the fact of that. People who rent are residents. They don't own the property, but it can impact residents who rent. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Councilor Starr.
Thank you. Just to make one point that at some point we're going to ask for a tax override.
Yes, sir.
And I think we need to keep that in mind. Because if we ask for a tax override and it doesn't pass, we'll have to cut the operational budget.
Yes, sir.
To the bones.
Yes, sir.
And we have to spend the money on sewers because we're under a court order to spend it. So I'm just saying that. Thank you.
Thanks for the information. Yes, sir. Any other discussion in regards to this item? So we have a couple of routes we could take. We could accept it, obviously as it is. We could vote to amend and increase, I believe, and then, or we could just, do kind of a two-tier where we accept it what it is. And actually, I would maybe recommend this, that we accept it the way it is, and then with new leadership, we do a work group with counselors and as recommended, and maybe some of the members of the CFAC who serve our community, and then come up with a workshop, and then we come up with a recommendation. We can vote at that point in time. Is that something that we could do, Director Mill? For next year.
For next year.
So, or we could vote and amend and move on something tonight.
Yep.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just point of information, I thought that the workshop group was for the Provincetown model and that it wasn't for this particular item that's on.
We
for
could
the
do both.
Vote now.
What I was saying, we could do both. You know what I mean? Moving forward.
If I may ask.
I'm just saying if more councils want more information on the impact.
For Director Milne, when is the deadline for you to get this commitment for this year?
Yeah, we have our billing printer has asked for a file by December 14th. So, yeah, if we don't have a vote tonight, then we probably won't issue the bills by December 31st.
Council Lucky, please.
Yes, I'd like to put forward a recommendation to do a 30% this evening, if people would like to vote on that possibility.
So you'd like to make a possible amendment in regards to that?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need any legal review on that? First we need a second, I guess.
I second that.
Anyone? We have a second? So 30%, we have a second. And is that enough to just amend it on the floor like that, or do we need to? No. I'm asking an opinion in regards to, and we're okay with that.
Mr. President, may I ask Mr. Milne a question?
You may.
While we're waiting? Okay.
Councilor
I'm
Schmidt, please.
just wondering if this topic, usually we look to CFAC as one of our advisory groups on matters that are financial. Has there been any discussion or recommendation from CFAC on this matter?
There's been a discussion. We did provide the presentation that we've given to the council earlier to CFAC at one of their recent meetings, but they don't provide a recommendation. They don't recommend tax policy. But if you wanted to create a working group and appoint a few of them too, and with their charge being to recommend tax policy, they certainly would be willing to participate.
Okay, thank you.
So Town Attorney Karen Nober, we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded to raise the tax exemption from 20% to 30%. I just want to make sure that that's sufficient enough to move forward in regards to a vote.
Yeah, so the motion is to amend this item to change 20% to 30%.
Correct. Okay, very good. Okay, so at this point in time, council, it is a roll call.
We have discussion?
Discussion.
Oh, yes, we can have discussion, please. Yes, sir.
If I could, I'm in favor of increasing it, but is going to 30% too much of an incremental step, as opposed to giving us more flexibility next year or the year after by going, say, to 25 this year and having the option of going up at any point in the future?
Exactly. I mean, we have 30% on the floor right now, but I think that's a great point. Anybody else like to have a discussion in regards? Council Clark?
Thank you very much. I would support 25 as originally proposed by Councilor Tamish.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Council Bloom, please.
I like Councilor Tamish's idea.
Just make sure your mic's on, sir.
I like Councilor Tamish's idea of going to 25.
Okay. Thank you. I think I've given my opinion in regards to that. Anybody else? But we do have a motion on the floor, so we do need to vote for that unless somebody wants to rescind that motion. Councilor Penn, did you want to say?
Can we amend the motion?
I think we have to vote it. Go ahead, Town Attorney Karen Nober, please. Please come to the microphone. Thank you. Sorry. I don't think it's on.
Oh, no.
That green
Now
light.
the green light is on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So you have a motion to amend this item by substituting 30% for 20%.
That is correct.
You can amend that amendment once.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just trying to think if you have to,
Or we could just vote on it, right?
or you can
And
vote.
then, and then amend it again.
Once it's voted, you can't amend it.
You can't.
So you would amend the amendment,
Okay, so that's what we have to do if we want to go to 25.
or someone can withdraw it if you'd like to do that.
But we can vote again. If this one doesn't pass, then we can vote on another percentage.
No, you can't keep amending it. So you can amend it once, or you can amend the amendment. So right now, there's a motion to amend this item by substituting 30 for 20, 30% for 20%. So you can take a vote on that if you want, and then that's done. Or if there's a motion to amend that amendment, you can take a vote on that.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion to amend the amendment?
Councilor Clark, please.
I move that we amend the amendment from 30 to 25%.
Second.
We have a first and a second. And did I say here that it's not a roll call majority vote?
It's a majority vote, it's not a roll call vote.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I was just reading what was in the
I know,
end. Yeah, it's okay. So, any other discussion? It's open for discussion again. Any other discussion? Okay. So, yes, Councilor Turkelson.
Sorry to be repetitive. I just want to repeat, we haven't changed this number since 2006, so I still hold at 30%.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Councilor Schnapp.
Could you clear on what a yes vote is and a no vote for this?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Councilor Schnapp. So a yes vote would be for changing
To amend the initial amendment, which was 30%, a yes vote would be to amend that to 25%.
and then we would vote as amended.
Let's just do, first you're just going to.
Again, but just, again, this is a great exercise, actually, for a new council. That we wouldn't move forward with the amendment, the amended
A no
amendment.
vote is to not amend the 30% to 25%. So right now, you're voting on whether to amend the initial amendment of 30 to 25. That's the vote.
Are we okay on that?
A yes is
A
to do
yes
that.
to do that amendment from 30 to 25. Okay. All those in favor of amending the amendment from 30 to 25, please signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
That is,
Keep
and
your
then,
hand up.
you get that? Okay. And those who would be not in favor of amending from 30 to 25, please raise your hand. And any abstentions?
So now the vote is to.
So that passes,
approve-
by the way.
That passes, so now the vote is to approve this item as amended.
Correct. So now, at 25%. So a yes vote at this point would be approving the amended amendment and we're approving 25% as our tax exemption for this residential tax levy fiscal year 2024 for residential tax exemption. Okay? So please, council, if you could, signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
You got the count? Okay. And those who are not approve, please raise your hand by signifying by your not approval by raising your hand and signifying. Okay. So I believe that passes. Did you get the count on that? Because I didn't.
12 to 1.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that passes. Great discussion. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Council, on a great discussion in regards to that. So thank you. And thank you, Director Milne. Okay. Moving over to our next item. Council Clark, please, if you could help me get Council item number 2024-068.
Thank you very much, President Levesque. This is old business requiring a public hearing with a roll call majority vote. Agenda item 2024-068, allocation of tax levy fiscal year 2024 tax factor. Resolved that the town council hereby votes to classify the town of Barnstable under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 56, the Classification Act, at a residential factor of 1 for the fiscal year 2024.
A second? Here, first and second, and Director Milne, please, for the rationale.
Thank you, Mr. President. So at a residential factor of 1, as this table illustrates, at the very top, the CIP levy would remain at $14,728,000, and they would pay a tax rate of $5.92 per $1,000 of valuation. This option allows cities and towns to shift more of that tax levy from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes. Characteristics of communities who adopt this typically have 20 or more % of their CIP in CIP property value, commercial, industrial, personal property. The average of all the communities who have adopted this is about 110 communities who in Massachusetts who do a split tax rate. The average is about 21.11%. And you can see what the taxes that get shifted at 5 at the increments of 5 here, that goes all the way up to $7.3 million. That would be the maximum that we could shift from the commercial residential class to the CIP class, and the resulting tax rates would end up as a residential rate of $5.59 and a CIP rate of $8.88. You can see at each shift, the residential rate only goes down 3 cents, while the corresponding CIP rate goes up 30 cents. Why is that? It's because we're 90% residential property. So the tax benefit to residential property owners from this tool is not significant, yet the impact on commercial properties could be. So that's why we haven't shifted it. The councils in the past have never shifted it. And typically communities who have the kind of property makeup like we do with 90% in a residential class, there's not enough of a benefit to that residential class to justify shifting taxes.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is a public hearing. Does anybody like to speak on this item that's in the hearing room, please? Would anybody like to speak via remote? No? Okay. So I would close the public hearing, open up for council discussion. Looking to my left, any questions in regards to this item? Looking to my right, anybody? Councilor Tamish, please.
I think the philosophy of leaving it one factor of 1 is probably the correct one, in my opinion. With a 90% residential base, it just doesn't seem to make much sense to shift it onto the commercial sector that's already struggling.
Thank you for that. I would agree. Anybody else? Okay. It also says roll call majority for this one.
And actually, Mr. President, I hate to do this.
No, it's okay.
But when you all did the vote to approve the amendment to 25, that was to make that change from 30 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you actually need to take a vote to approve that amendment, the actual number, as opposed to making that change.
Okay.
So could you take that extra vote, and then you would vote the item as amended?
Okay. Do we go back now and do that, or can I just finish this item?
Could we do it now while I have
Yeah,
it straight?
no, whatever you think. Sure, absolutely. So can you say that one more time for the audience?
So you all voted to change the initial amendment from 30 to 25. Now you're voting to approve that amendment.
We didn't approve the amendment.
Right. Right. You approved to amend the number from 30 to 25, but now I'm asking you to vote to approve that amendment.
And then you have to move to...
We did. Well, okay.
You think you did?
I think I did, but let's do it again. Let's vote again.
Can't hurt.
Why not? So council, if you could, signify, we're approving the amendment as the entire amendment that was amended. Get that? So, to 25. So Council, if you could please raise your hand and signify approval by saying aye. I think that's unanimous this
Okay.
time. Now,
And
do we
then-
need
And then the
to?
vote is to approve the item as amended.
Now we're going to approve this. Again, just for the audience, this is item number 2024-067. We went back in time a little bit. And so now, as amended, we are approving this item at the 25% as amended. Please raise your hand and signify approval by saying aye. And that is, that's okay. I believe that is once again 11 to 1. 12 to 1, excuse me, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And back to our regular scheduled programming at item number 2024-068. So now we have this allocation of the tax levy for the tax factor for fiscal year 2024. Just going back, just making sure nobody has any questions. Okay, no more discussion. So it says roll call majority, but I'm assuming that it's a majority vote once again. Am I wrong in that? Councilor Crowe, please.
Yes vote is to remain the same.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ron. Attorney Nober, this also says roll call majority, but I just want to make sure that we're okay with the majority. That's correct. Thank you. So with that, Council, if you could please raise your hand and signify approval by saying aye. Aye. Great. That was unanimous, and that's kind of normally how it goes. So just thank you very much, Director Milne, for all your hard work.
Thank you very
and
much.
your investment in the council and all the education that you've given for the last month, I would say. So I appreciate your time.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And again, thank you again for all the questions that I
Yes.
received. They were very helpful.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Mendes, please, if you could. Item number 2024-074.
Thank you, President Levesque. This is new business. Item number 2024-074. Resolve authorizing the town of Barnstable to convey property at 259 Barnstable Road, Hyannis to Ronald Bourgeois. May be acted upon majority vote.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we have Director of Asset Management, David Anthony, with us for the rationale, please.
Good evening, councilors. The rationale that is before you lays out that this is a slight change in order for us to bring to a close the transaction before us. Back in June, you had voted to allow the town manager, and you had voted to affirm the sale of this property. And at that time, it was to Bass River Properties, which is a corporate entity, and the buyer has requested that it be to them as an individual. So in order to make sure that the town council vote matches up exactly with the way that we are transacting this so that it remains clear title all the way through, we're asking for this clarification vote. Again, this is at the request of the buyer.
Thank you. Appreciate the rationale. Any council discussion in regards to this item? Looking to my right. Anybody? Okay. Seeing none, thank you for the rationale. Council, if you could please signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. This next item, I actually need to recuse myself. So at this point in time, I would hand the meeting over to Town Clerk Ann Quirk, and I will be leaving the dais to return shortly.
Thank you, President Levesque. In a case like this, where we do not have a current vice president, according to the town council rules, I would be turning the mic over to Gordon Starr, Precinct 1.
Thank you, Ann Quirk. So we're going to move on to item 2024-075. Can I ask Councilor Schnepp to read this, since you're from Marston Mills? If you could please read that for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Starr. This is an item of new business referred to a public hearing on 12/21/2023. Item number 2024-075. Appropriation order in the amount of $905,000 in community preservation funds for the purpose of acquiring a conservation restriction on 5.5 acres of open space at 150 Wheeler Road, Marston's Mills, Barnstable, and authorization to expend a fiscal year 2024 local acquisitions for natural diversity, land grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the amount of $488,700 to defray the cost of said conservation restriction, as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. We're now going to vote to refer this to a public hearing on December 21st, 2023. Councilors, if you could please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. I have to give it up? I have to give up the hint?
What page is it? Thank you, Council Starr. Moving on to our next item of new business. Councilor Schnapp, please, if you could, item number 2024-076.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an item of new business that may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item number 2024-076, authorization to contract for and expend a federal fiscal year 2023 COPS hiring program grant in the amount of $250,000 from the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, as written.
Second.
First and second, we have Chief Chalice with us for the rationale, please. Welcome.
I almost got to it. Good evening, Mr. President, Town Council members. Unfortunately, there's more math. Oh.
It was on, just needs to be a little closer.
Oh, okay.
Step up to the mic.
There's more math in this, unfortunately, but I'll do my best to keep it to a minimum. So the police department applied for and was awarded a $250,000 federal fiscal year 2023 grant from the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services. So this is a COPS grant. And in March of 2022, the department had a staffing study completed by Municipal Resources Incorporated, or MRI, and the company determined that our staffing levels have not kept pace with the volume of calls or the complexity of the calls that we're handling. And they also suggested that we are at risk of becoming more reactive and not really able to engage in a proactive manner with our community policing efforts, and that proactive community policing programming is really critical to us maintaining our transparency and accountability and trust with the community. So the study indicated that if we could increase our headcount by at least 2 additional sworn officers, that we'd be in a better place to continue to maintain those proactive community policing efforts without really impacting our patrol efforts in an adverse way. So this grant will provide partial funding for up to 3 years for 2 officers, with the understanding that when the funds are consumed, the town will agree to fund those 2 positions by increasing the department headcount from 118 to 120 sworn officers. The funding is going to enable us to return a school resource officer to Barnstable United Elementary School, and that's a position that we had funded previously, but due to staffing shortages, we removed that school resource officer several years ago, and then the other position would be a regular patrol officer position. And as far as the funding, the way that it will be used, the award will provide coverage for up to 75% of the base salary and fringe benefits for each of the 2 officers. And the fringe benefits include the health insurance, retirement, the county retirement, and Medicare for those 2 positions. So the estimated salary and benefit cost for one officer is $97,472. For both combined, that means it's $194,944. The 75% of that comes to $146,208 in the initial year. So our local share would be $48,736. And then the balance of the grant, which is $103,792, would be expended in the second year. And then by that 3rd year, the full cost of the new positions would be absorbed into the general fund operating budget. There are some costs associated with the positions that are not covered by the grant, and those include our educational incentive, our shift differentials, the AED stipend that officers receive, and our clothing allowance. So for each position, those are estimated at $19,000, and we used, to make that estimate, we used a bachelor's degree and an assignment to the midnight shift. The SRO position does come with overtime, so that kind of offsets the midnight shift assignment. But that, for both officers combined, comes to $38,000. So the $38,000 in associated costs combined with the $48,736 in salary expenses results in a total operating budget impact of $86,736 in that first year. In the second year, it would increase to $129,202, and then in year 3, the cost would be the full $232,994 when the positions are fully absorbed by the operating budget. We are anticipating the ability to hire in FY24 in hopes that we can pull in lateral transfers, which will offer some savings because they don't need to go to the academy, but we're hopeful that we can hopefully pull in some lateral transfers and hire them sooner than later. The grant has to be used within 3 years once you start to take the funding, but we shouldn't have a problem with that. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief Chalice. I'll look into my right. Does anybody have questions? Council Lucky, please.
Yeah, I had a question. That was a very nice presentation. I'm just curious because I remember the last time we heard from the police force that you had vacancies and had a hard time filling. So what do you think the prospects are? I mean, will you fill this first because this grant funding is attached to it? I mean, how are you going to guarantee that we'll get the fills within the 3 years? And can you assign the people to these? If you could just explain the vacancies you have now and how this melds in with that and how the hiring process might be impacted.
So currently we have vacancies that we are working on filling. We have a hiring process that's open, and we have 3 more vacancies to fill. We have officers that are being backgrounded, and hopefully we'll be sending 3 people to the July Academy. The hope is that with these positions that we can pull in lateral transfers, and we did get permission through the COPS office to use these positions with a lateral transfer. So right now, all of our vacancies that are full, that are open, we've given 5 conditional offers. We have more backgrounds going on, and hopefully candidates that will accept those conditional offers as we're finishing up their backgrounds that we'll be hiring in the next couple of months. They will miss the February Academy, but they'll be on board for the July Academy. Our hope is that these 2 positions will be filled with lateral transfers in the coming months and not need to go to an academy. So we did, you know, we are hopeful that we will be able to get the positions filled. We are going to continue to have vacancies because we have a number of, you know, we have retirements that are looming, and we're going to continue to have vacancies. But right now, the vacancies that we have, we are successful in filling because we've had a successful hiring process that we're just wrapping up.
And just to follow up, I'm just curious because, you know, this has been so long-standing, and our DPW has had a similar but probably more severe problem. What did you do, or what did these candidates say that drew them to the Barnstable Police Department? Is there anything you can pick out that made this happen? Because it seems like it's been a long-standing problem that seems like it's being resolved.
This is a brand-new civil service certification, so this is a new list that we pulled from. We also had several hundred names of candidates, so we were fortunate to have a large pool of candidates that we were able to look at. This has been a long vetting process that's been going on since the end of the summer to get to these people that are in process. So for us, we were given a large body of, you know, candidates to pull from through civil service. We're fortunate in many instances because the Cape is a tourist destination that a lot of the people that are coming to work here have either vacationed here as kids or their family has a summer home here. So that's really the only way that we've been able to successfully pull people here. They have family members or friends that have been able to provide them places to stay. Most of our officers now are actually either doing that for a period of time and then they're ending up living off Cape because they can't afford the housing, or they can't find housing. But for us, for this process, we were very fortunate with the candidates that we got. We got some very high-quality candidates in this pool.
Thank you. Any other questions? And to my left? Okay. Thank you very much. This is a public, oh, I'm sorry, it's not a public hearing. Look at the wrong page. So this item has obviously been discussed. Council, if you could please signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. Council Lucky, please, if you could, item number 2024-077.
Thank you. This is new business, refer to a public hearing on 12/21/2023. Item 2024-077. Appropriation and loan order in the amount of $770,000 for the purpose of funding the Bierce's Way vacuum sewer replacement project. As
Second.
written. Is that?
It's just referring to a public hearing. And so with that, Council, if you could signify your approval by moving this item to 12/21/2023. Raise your hand, signify approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Item moved. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, back to Councilor Schnepp, please, if you could, item number 2024-078.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an item of new business that may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item number 2024-078, authorization for sale of land at 164 Route 149, Catuit Road, Marston's Mills, Mass., as written.
Second.
We have first and second, and we have Director of Planning and Development, Elizabeth Jenkins, the rationale. Thank you.
Thank you, President Levesque, and happy Hanukkah, everyone. I am joined tonight with David Anthony, the Director of Asset Management, and very briefly, to seek approval from the Town Council to authorize the Town Manager to dispose of the property at 164 Route 149, also known as Catuit Road in Marston's Mills. The town issued a request for proposals for disposition of this property for the purposes of affordable housing, and the respondent, the successful respondent to this RFP was Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod. The parcel at 164 Route 149 is located in the heart of the Marston's Mills Village Center. You'll see Route 149 right there and Main Street. There it is again, located in the heart of a village. This is a town-owned property. It is a 0.5 acre property with approximately 200 feet of frontage on Route 149. It has a significant slope, about 20 feet from the street up to the top of the property. It is developed with a single-family residential dwelling that was built sometime in the 1920s. I have differing figures between 20 and 28. It's about approximately 500 to 550 square feet in area, and it is has been abandoned for some time. It is in a severely dilapidated condition. The town purchased this parcel in 2016. The original intention was for the property was to develop a surface parking lot for supplemental parking in the Marston's Mills Village Center. The town of Barnstable was at that time collaborating with the Village Association on streetscape improvements. There was some on-street parking that was to occur. There was some difficulty in obtaining those easements. So being responsive to the councilors and some of the participants in the process at that time, the town did seek to purchase this property, again, for parking. That appropriation included funding for a preliminary engineering study. That preliminary engineering study revealed that really because of the grades of the property, it would be very hard to achieve the purposes for which it was acquired, the requirement to install retaining walls, or in turn, the cost for, 20 plus parking spaces was hard to make financial sense at the time. And so this property has sat since then as that capital project did not move forward. On November 1st, 2022, the Planning and Development Department went to the Marston's Mills Village Association to talk about potential future uses of the property and found support for village-scale affordable housing for this parcel. We discussed the idea of infill with 1 to 3 affordable homes on the property. 2 seemed like the number that everybody was comfortable with. On November 15th, 2022, the Town Council voted to change the purpose for which the property was acquired from a parking lot to affordable housing, thus clearing the way for the town manager to move forward with declaring the property surplus. And on July 10th, 2023, the town manager's office, through the asset management division, issued an RFP for disposition of the property, again, for the purposes of affordable home ownership housing. Just a couple of notes on that request for proposals. The disposition sought a developer to acquire, redevelop, restrict, market, and resell the property for affordable housing purposes. The RFP asked for up to 2 detached dwelling units and proposed either the reuse of the existing building or redevelopment of the site. The target affordability was at or below 80% of the area median income, and the affordable homes had to carry deed restrictions, which qualified for the subsidized housing inventory. So these LIP deed restrictions, again, 80% or below, must be year-round, and meeting a number of other Commonwealth requirements. The RFP also sought a design for the property and materials for the subsequent dwelling units that reflected the local historic character, and as a bonus asked for energy efficiency and sustainable design features. On October 11th, 2023, proposals for the proposals were due. Again, that request for proposals contained evaluation factors, including looking at the development team and its experience and capacity, the overall development concept, the affordability of the dwelling units proposed, the project, it's essentially financial feasibility. Again, were all sort of key evaluation factors in evaluating the RFPs. It also requested a schedule from the proposed developer and included a right of reverter. So if whoever the successful respondent does not perform in accordance with the purchase and sale, the property would revert to the town. We received two responses to the RFP. One of those proposals was deemed responsive. That proposal was for Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod. This developer has over 30 years of experience on Cape Cod. They've built over 180 affordable homes in the region, and their proposal included 25 project references. Their proposal was for 2 3-bedroom detached units on separate lots on the property. The units would be affordable for sale to buyers at or below 80% of area median income. The proposal included a realistic development budget and a letter of interest in financing from a local financial institution, including a number of other sources, of course, fundraising because it was Habitat for Humanity. The bid price offered by Habitat for Humanity was $10, which was in excess of the minimum bid price at $1. In comparison to the disposition that Mr. Anthony essentially came up and clarified, because both the redevelopment costs were recognized were likely to exceed revenue, and the value of creating affordable homeownership opportunities in our community was realized. This is why the minimum bid price was set at $1. Again, this would be a typical Habitat for Humanity home, again, reflecting, I think, the traditional design features that the RFP sought. They also submitted a planting palette, including native landscape plants and a suite of different energy efficiency measures that they incorporate into all of their builds. So that leads us to the final step in that process, which is tonight. Again, the original change in use for the property, again, that was approved by the town council on November 17th, 2022, stated again that the property shall remain in care, custody, and control of the town manager for the purpose of disposition by sale, provided it is appropriately restricted for affordable housing, but provided further that the town manager shall obtain town council approval prior to any such disposition, which is what we are here to seek tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Jenkins. For thorough rationale, thank you. And with that, council discussion. Any questions or Council Turkelson, please.
The proposal said it was 2 separate lots. It's currently 1 lot?
Correct.
So we will be subdividing that lot into 2 lots?
The proposal is to create 2 individual lots. And because of the challenges on access, I believe the proposal it will include 1 shared driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Starr, please.
Thank you. How long before the sewer gets there?
So these properties are proposed to be served by individual Title V systems. That's probably a more appropriate DPW question. I would guess it was probably 5 years down the road. But again, these will be served by Title V systems. We did do some of our own internal due diligence on the property before we put it out and ordered a perk test, and that lot can support Title V system.
Any other questions? On this side, councilors to my right. Yes, Councilor Schnapp.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Elizabeth. Very glad that this has finally come to fruition, and I think that Habitat is a great choice for building these homes. 2 questions. Do you anticipate any financial requests of the Affordable Housing Trust for this project?
We have spoken to Habitat about the availability of that. They have not submitted a letter of intent or other intention at that time, but certainly I think the trust would welcome such an application.
And a follow-up question. I know it takes quite a bit of effort to create the RFP for projects like this. Are there any other parcels that we've already identified that we might be able to use this RFP to dispose and create some additional affordable housing units?
Yeah, I mean, this was I think a incredibly beneficial experience for us in planning and development and asset management. We've spent a tremendous amount of time researching RFPs and putting this together, sort of building that internal capacity. I know the trust has been looking at a property adjacent to the police station that's currently being used for staging, but has the potential for some development there. We are currently working on a project at the Barnstable Adult Community Center, where we are exploring the potential for infill for affordable housing, potentially for seniors there as well. So we hope to continue to look at the potential for using town property, whether surplus or through an infill fashion, to see how we can meet both our community's housing needs and some of our own workforce housing needs that we've heard about this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Schnapp. Any other questions to my right? Thank you very much. This is obviously in Precinct 10 and much-needed housing. And I know the Marston's Village Association has been looking forward to this coming forward. And so I will say I mentioned it at the meeting, the Marston's Village Association meeting on Tuesday. They were very excited. This item was on actually Councilor Schnapp mentioned it as well. And very excited that this will hit the agenda. So appreciate your hard work on that. And yes, if it can be a model moving forward for other parcels in the town of Barnstable, that would be, I'm sure, more than welcome. So with that, council, please, if you could, this is a majority vote. And if you could signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next item of new business. Thank you, Director Anthony, as well. Next item of new business, Council Starr, please, if you could, item number 2024-079.
This is new business, may be acted upon by majority vote. Number 2024-079, authorization to contract for and expend a fiscal year 2024 grant in the amount of $15,097.80 for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection to acquire 3 electric vehicle charging stations. As written.
Second.
We have first and second, and we have Director of Asset Management, David Anthony, with us, and also our Environmental and Sustainability Manager, Sean Hogan. Welcome. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful opportunity, first of all, to introduce Sean to you. He has been with the town for a little bit over a year, and this is the second grant that he has been able to obtain for the town, and another one on its heels. So because he has done most of the work, I'm going to let him do the presentation. I want to say that because the council, in approving this position in years past, has made someone, a staff person, available to do this kind of work, the results are here before you tonight. When this work was being done, in addition to so many other things, there was only so much time in a day. But when you can devote someone to this job, there's a lot that can come back from it. And this is just one of a number of tasks that we've been able to make some real progress on in asset management because of the presence of Sean. So I'd like to let him present, and this is his first time at town council, so please be gentle.
Greetings, councilors. It's so nice to see you all. Slightly nervous, but let's see if we can get through it.
You're going to be great.
Okay. Well, so this grant is fairly basic. It's a mass EVIP grant to allow us to install some EV chargers that will give us fleet charging. It's the medium to long-term goal of the town to begin to transition some of our light-duty appropriate vehicles from from internal combustion engines to electric, and we can't do that until we have the charging infrastructure, and this will get us down the road towards that. This is only the first step. It's part of a make-ready application, and so this will be contingent on Eversource analyzing the site and deciding how they feel about it, I don't know, using divining rods or something. But if they're cool with it, then the 15 grand can be used towards the EV chargers once Eversource completes the make ready and installs the electrical infrastructure. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this, life, whatever.
You seem really nervous.
Thanks.
Yeah. With that, Councilor Starr, of course.
Thank you. Nice. Good evening, Mr. Hogan. So we're talking about across the street?
Yeah, the Armory.
At the Armory, the Armory parking lot, okay. So they have to evaluate the site first, but they want us to have the grant, the money in place?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a prerequisite. They won't look at it until we've applied for this. I think they'd still look at it if Mass EVIP had turned us down, but I still have to make the attempt.
Okay.
So,
How long does it take them to look at it?
sorry.
To the answer to that.
I don't know if you know someone at Eversource that can tell me.
Yeah, they can
feel
take
free
a
to
lot
let
of
me
time.
know.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Thank you for doing all the legwork.
Yeah,
for
no
this.
problem.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, you're right. Technically, we have like 6 months once we get this grant. But I talked to Mass EVIP, and unofficially, they're like, "Yeah, we get it. It's Eversource." So.
It's a good point. Anybody else to this side? Question for Sean. All right, looking to my right. In regards to that, Councilor Schnapp, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Sean. Could you just clarify, and it's probably here in the writing, are these just for the municipal vehicles?
Yes,
So,
this
okay.
would just be for municipal vehicles that the town owns or leases.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Sean.
Hi.
Nicely done. What's a level 2 electric vehicle charging station?
It's one better than a level 1. No. Level 1s are what we call trickle chargers, and that's the kind of thing that you can install at home for basically nothing, and it charges cars extremely slowly, so if you're going to be sleeping for 12 hours, a level 1 is great. A level 2 will charge a car in 1 to 4 hours, depending on how strong the level 2 is quite a range. And the strength of level 2 that we'll have will depend somewhat on the electrical infrastructure that Eversource decides to install and what they feel that the grid can support. But level 2 should be more than enough to support charging for fleet vehicles. They'll be able to sit there, charge overnight, and even heavy use during the day, recover most of their charge for if they being left alone in the morning. So, yeah, a level 3 would do it in like 30 minutes, in case. But those are hellaciously expensive.
Councilor Turkelson, please.
When are we going to be planning to get these electric vehicles?
As soon as we get the chargers in line, then I think we can start ordering. But I don't want to jump the gun until we have somewhere to plug them in.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions to my right? Okay. Thank you, Sean, and getting through the nervousness. And so with that,
sure.
Councilors, without any further discussion, if you could signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Very good. It's unanimous. Thank you. Councilor Starr, why don't we continue with the next item?
Thank you. Thank you, President Levesque. Excuse me, this is item 2024-080. New business may be acted upon with a majority vote. Authorization to contract for and expend a fiscal year 2024 grant in the amount of $264,409 for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection to acquire 31 electric vehicle charging stations.
Second.
First and second, and back to Director Anthony for the rationale, please.
Certainly, I'd like to put a little context associated with the electric vehicle charger program, which predates Sean. About 4 or 5 years ago, we picked up the ball from our initial effort into EV chargers, which happened as part of a grant back in 2013. There were 3 chargers that were acquired, 2 port chargers. These were the early adopter level 2 technology, so they were still pretty slow. One was out here at Town Hall. One was in front of the high school, and one is on the western North Street parking lot down by where Social Security was, behind Toomey. There was also a charging station that was out of that grant that was given to Barnstable County. And those have operated on and off of late, mostly off, because it was old technology. And one of the first things that Sean did when he came in was get those upgraded through a grant that this council approved and accepted. And what we've seen is kind of this, now that we have the attention to apply to our EV charger program and responding to what our customers, what our residents, and what our visitors are asking for, what you have before you now is kind of the phase 2 of expanding into our public parking lots to be able to bring additional chargers into that operation. This is a program that, again, that started 10 years ago, and about 5 years ago we started discussing where we might put more of these, and then the opportunity came. And again, because Sean had the opportunity to go and get this grant, I'll let him discuss the locations and why the locations were chosen.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Hi,
Welcome back, Sean.
So yeah, this one's for substantially more money. It's the same basic idea as the first one. We have to apply to Mass EVIP and get funding from them before Eversource will evaluate the sites and decide whether or not they want to proceed. We have a number of locations that we selected. I spent some time in the community asking local EV drivers, going to EV expos, local EV expos, asking where people would like to see some charging, and most of these sites came up. North Street was particularly popular, as was Ocean Street. And Town Hall appears to be heavily used currently with the charger that we have. It's almost always occupied during the day. And actually, I'd like to say that for the chargers that we've recently upgraded, we've seen about 800 charging sessions since September. It's actually a lot more than I suspected. And if we charged what I think we're going to charge, it's about 25 cents a kilowatt hour, and extrapolate their current use, they would break even and actually make slightly more than they're costing, which was a surprise. The high school and middle school are also on the list. I targeted Hyannis heavily because there's a bit more money for environmental justice communities, and these all fell within that map. And I wanted the first sort of swing at bat for this particular project to have the highest chance of getting funding. But if the council's interested, we can start looking at sites outside of Hyannis, because I want all of Barnstable to benefit from this sort of program. And any questions, I can take those.
That's great. Thank you. Any questions to my right? Councilor Tamish, please.
Just a little bit of a clarification.
Sure.
You are going to be charging for the use of the stations?
I believe that's our intention, yes. Or at least we're
All right.
strongly considering it.
Second, I'm a little bit confused. In the verbiage in the article, it says anticipating of having a safe, accessible location for these vehicles to charge up. This town vehicle-only charging location is anticipated.
Oh,
Aren't these public?
They're public. I'm sorry, that must be a mistake.
Okay. And the third question is maintenance.
Maintenance.
Having been associated with the town in the past, getting an electrician is like getting a brain surgeon sometimes.
Sometimes. Our electricians have been pretty heroic about keeping the old chargers online, at least towards the end, and they recently actually upgraded the panel on North Street, so
Okay.
I was kind of impressed with them.
Because, I mean, you're adding 31 here, and I think it was 10, was it, in the last article? So, I mean, that's a lot of new work.
It is a lot of new work. I'm exploring the possibility of shared maintenance agreements across multiple towns, but that's still in its infancy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tamish. Councilor Schnapp, please.
Mr. President. Yeah, thank you, Sean. And thank you for explaining the justification or rationale for the locations of these charging stations, and I look forward to their great success and expansion throughout the rest of the town.
Yeah, if people have suggestions, feel free to email them to me. So.
Thank you. Anybody else to my right? Any questions to my left? Councilor Crowe, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a more practical question.
Sure.
Like, for example, I think 744 West Main is a high school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What determines where on the property that the electric stations are put?
Right,
placed?
that'll be to a large extent up to Eversource. I made a preliminary survey of each site with one of their contractors, and we geolocated some of the spots that they thought were most likely to be successful, but ultimately it'll be up to them which spots are most viable on the property.
Okay,
But most likely for the, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Finish up.
for the high school, most likely it'll be near the existing charger because that's already proved to be functional, and so they'll expand to the left of it.
That makes sense. Where is that existing charger?
Right in front of the, I think, the.
Right in front of the main entrance.
Right, yeah.
By the visitor parking.
What is the average time for today's cars to charge fully?
I mean, it depends on the car. Fancier cars will draw
yeah.
energy quicker. For level 2, you're looking on average probably 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
But 1 to 2 will give you a good charge.
Okay, I think what I'm getting at is that anytime you go to the grocery store now, there's 57 spots that you can't use right in front of the store. And they're not for these cars, they're for good reasons and bad, handicapped spots and, my question is that these are going to be held for, say, 4 hours by one car. Wouldn't they be more, advantageous to the public that is going back and forth to these places to have these more outlier spots than right in front of all the buildings? And I know the electricity location has to make sense also.
Sure.
But it seems like the public is farther and farther and farther away from anything they want to go to. And something that's going to keep a spot for 4 hours doesn't need to be straight in front of a building.
I suppose that's fair. For a lot of these sites that are located in downtown Hyannis, though, they're also a draw in bringing people with EV chargers and allowing them to come and patronize local restaurants, local stores, and gives them something to do while they're charging. The model for EV charging going forward, at least in the medium term, is to have charging as more of a, it's not like going to a gas station where the gas station is the party, that's the event that you're going to. It's more you're finding opportunities to charge while doing other things. And so these fit into the economic landscape a little differently than our previous refueling system. But your point is well taken that they will occupy spots. I'm not sure of a way around that.
Well, thank you. I just think it'd be more convenient for the public for these to be not in front of everything at the time, a little bit to the side somewhere. Somebody's going to spend 4 hours in a place can walk a little bit to get to.
Well,
but many people are in a rush. They're trying to get to a parking spot close to the whatever venue they're trying to get in, and it's difficult sometimes with so many other spots cordoned off.
My only thought is that a good chunk of the public at some point will be having EV chargers, and so then they'll be quite excited to be parking right up front.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Any other questions for Sean in regards to this item? Thank you very much for the. I'm sorry, Councilor Turkelson.
These proposed sites, do you have those all mapped out?
Do you mean like in the grand sense of where they'll be located, or do you like a site map of the actual
Like just, I
parking
mean,
lot?
I can go and map all of these on there myself. I'm just wondering if you have a master map where these are all kind of already plotted?
I do. If you'd like, I mean, I can share it with you if you like, and we also have theoretical drawings of what they'd look like, but that's,
Yeah.
just a first pass
I
at
just
it.
wanted to look at the process in totality, and
Oh,
I figure
yeah.
instead of recreating the map, if you already have it, I would
Sure,
take that.
yeah, I'll send you it.
Why, just, you can forward it to our assistant, Cynthia Lovell, and she can forward it to the entire council. How's that sound?
Sounds
Or
great.
even, if we have access, we can put it on the website. So,
Sure.
let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Council, if you could please, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Director Anthony. Council, if you could please raise your hand, signify approval by saying aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work. And I got to give a shout out to Councilor Starr, because without Councilor Starr, I believe it was our first strategic plan session in the summer of 2020 that you mentioned getting a sustainable, energy sustainable grant coordinator on regards to that. It's in writing, it's codified, and we did that, and here we are. So congratulations, nice work.
And he's paying his way.
It is paying his way, just like you said he would.
Worth every cent, yeah.
Just like you said he would, sir. So again, we don't do it for credit, but if credit's due, I think it's important to recognize that. So thank you. So thank you very much again. And Sean, don't be so nervous next time. Councilor Clark, please, if you could, item number 2024-081.
Thank you very much, President Levesque. This is new business, may be acted upon with a majority vote. Item number 2024-081, authorization to contract for and expend a fiscal year 2024 grant in the amount of $242,424 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs to support staff salaries and programs of the Barnstable Council on Aging Division.
Second.
First and a second, and we have Director of Community Services, Christopher Ganella, for the rationale, please.
Yes, good evening, President Levesque and new and seasoned town councilors. The Executive Office of Elders Affairs awards municipalities in Massachusetts an annual formula grant based on census residents age 60 and above in each town. Based on the 2020 census, which is the most current census we have, there were 17,316 residents over the age of 60 in Barnstable. The FY24 award has been increased to $14 per older adult, which results in a total award of the $242,424. Formula grant funding assists the Barnstable County Council on Aging in maintaining adequate personnel to ensure sustained delivery of our viable programs and services. This year's grant will fully fund our program coordinator, our 2 new part-time van driver salaries, and partially fund our caregiver support services coordinator and the division assistance position. Formula grant funds will also be used to offset other operating expenses, including newsletter mailings, program supplies, repairs, and maintenance of the Barnstable Adult Community Center. We are extremely grateful to the Executive of Office of Elder Affairs and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for their continued support of the needs of older adults in our community as well as others. There is no immediate fiscal impact on the town's operating budget as a result of this grant. With that, I would be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Ganella. Any questions, Director Ganella? Council Turkelson, please.
The funding of the new part-time drivers, I have patients who use those services, and it's always problematic. So I'm just wondering if the addition of these people will make those services more user-friendly, more available, more widely utilized. I'm assuming it's all of those things, but I guess I'm just wondering what the focus of having that portion increased would be.
We started the pilot program back, which was the transportation that was in-house by the town of Barnstable at the Barnstable Adult Community Center 2 weeks ago. So this is a brand-new program running on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So they're calling into the BACC. We've worked with the Cape Cod RTA. We understand the need. We've heard someone talk earlier about Meals on Wheels, Smart Dart. There's all different kinds. Neighbors to Neighbors. This is a free service provided, and we set this mission kind of in motion to get a pilot program to see what is the actual need. And having this formula grant enabled us not to have to seek general funds to do it. We have our own funds to try it and see if it's viable. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Ganella in regards to this item? Council Clark.
President Levesque. And thank you very much, Director Ganella. Hearing you respond to Councilor Turkelson's question, you said you're trying this out, so that means that you're going to have to reapply for the grant, or if you don't get a grant in the future, that this program will have to figure out another funding source?
Not quite accurate. This is a formula grant that's for all of the Council on Aging. A small portion of that funded the transportation piece.
See.
So if this is successful and we want to expand it, then we would seek alternative methods or general funds to fund it. But before asking for that money, we had the formula grant funds to utilize to implement a pilot program.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Council Clark. Any other questions in regards to this item? Okay. Thank you very much for the rationale. And Council, if you could please signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Council Mendes, please, if you could. Item number 2024-082.
Thank you, President Levesque. This is new business. It's a first reading, referred to as second reading on 12/21/2023, item number 2024-082. Order authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the town of Barnstable and Barnstable County for dredging services.
Second.
We have a first and a second, referring this to a public hearing. Council, if you could please signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Item is moved. Thank you. Council Neary, if you could please, item number 2024-083.
With pleasure, Mr. President. This is new business to be referred to a public hearing on December 21st, 2023. It's item number 2024-083. It's an appropriation order in the amount of $100,000 in community preservation open space recreation funds. This is for the purpose of providing funding to the Centerville-Ossiville-Masters Mills, or COM, Water Department for professional services to evaluate the suitability of acquiring lands or interest in land adjacent to or within a Zone 2, as defined by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection drinking water regulations, and adjacent to existing COM Water Department drinking water supplies.
Second.
We have a first and a second, again referring to a public hearing. Council, if you could please raise your hand, signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much. It is referred. And Council Lutkey, please. Item number 2024-084.
Thank you. This is new business. It may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item 2024-084, resolve approving a letter in support of Senate Bill 1315.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and Attorney Norbert, would you like to give the rationale, or would you like one of us councilors to do that? Council Lutkey, would you like to give the rationale, or would you like me to do it?
I had thought Andy Clyburn was going to do that, but apparently he's not here. Why don't you go ahead and I can add in some thoughts.
That's fine.
Karen Nober, Town Attorney. The Steamship Authority's enabling legislation was amended in 2002 to provide that the votes of the members of the authority are weighted as follows. The votes of the Dukes County, which is Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket members are each counted as 35%, and the votes of the Barnstable, Falmouth, and New Bedford members are each counted as 10%, such that if the Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket members vote the same way, their votes would be sufficient to pass or defeat a motion. Senate Bill 1315 would further amend this provision to keep the weight of the votes the same, but require that when Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket vote the same way, a vote from one of the other members is necessary in agreement is necessary for any action to be taken by the authority. So this resolve proposes that the town council approve a letter in support of Senate Bill 1315, substantially in the form attached hereto. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Can I add?
You may.
Yeah, no, this came from, and some of our new councilors weren't here. We all remember when the Steamship Authority came here to increase the length of their boats above that we have in our current agreement. And it was quite a meeting, and we had to have a second meeting because there was so much discussion about that. And I think we've steadily watched the Steamship Authority take over the Hyannis Harbor, much to the detriment of Barnstable. And it is true they are island communities that require service, but we are also a community that's been, I think, taken advantage of in many respects by the Steamship Authority. And, I consider, as I said earlier, Bob Davis is such a gentleman, a friend, and he does a beautiful job. But I think we have to stand up for ourselves. And this is an incremental step. And I think Councillor Penn had an amendment to the letter to strengthen a little bit. And I think, President Levesque, you've done some calls. I know I called to Falmouth, and they are remaining silent on this. I really won't speak for them, but their general sense was this is not strong enough. But in my opinion, it's the deal on the table, and you should address the deal on the table. We heard last night at the Nantucket Select Board that at Martha's Vineyard, and Bob Davis again referred to phones lighting up on the vineyard in Nantucket. The vineyard alerted Nantucket, and they are working on a joint letter to oppose the bill. And I wrote to the mayor of New Bedford and spoke to his secretary, and I haven't heard back, and I don't know if you had heard anything from New Bedford to see if they're silent or they're coming out one way or the other. So that's why I was very happy to hear that Felicia Penn took the initiative to, I think, strengthen our letter. And maybe we should all see that amendment. I don't know if it's available for everyone to see on a screen. But I think if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody else is going to do it. And I have, of sympathy. I've lived on islands before. I lived on the island of Terceira for 15 months. I know what it's like to live on an island when the ship doesn't arrive on time. You don't have certain food. And I've lived that life, so I know what it's like. But there's other options. In calendar year 22, they brought 55,000 trucks through Hyannis. I mean, that's an astounding amount of wear and tear on our roads. And we lost more than 30 slips to could have been fishing vessels or personal watercraft in the harbor when they expanded for their fast ferry. So, we support them. We've always supported them. And this is a chance to have a little bit of equity. And as I said earlier, voting is critical to our way of life. And having some equity, I think we need to fight for that and support it. And if you could speak, if you've heard anything from New Bedford, I don't.
Yeah, so right now, because it's new, I think it's something where the council they want to have their own discussion in regards to that. And I think that, understandably so, maybe the communities may feel that this doesn't have the teeth necessarily, but I do believe in Senator Moran's intent in regards to trying to strengthen our position and have more say in regards to that. So I think it's worthy of support. And that's why I was in favor of fashioning a letter in regards to that and sending along to, again, just to, I think there needs to be a certain level of accountability if this partnership is really truly going to be a partnership. So with that, I did speak with Councilor Penn and her letter, and it is, the edited version is above. And so if, I don't know if Councilor Penn, if you'd like to have a discussion in regards to the letter.
Just a quick statement,
sure,
if you would.
Please. That's please, yes.
I just offered this amendment because I wanted it, I thought that the letter should focus more on the greater influence and baby steps that this takes towards giving the mainland ports some more influence. I remember, Steamship's been through, and Mr. Jones talked about this earlier in this meeting during public comment, but, they were created because the islands were having trouble getting regular, not just passenger trips, but freight and food, and gas, and important things to live by. And that was a long, long, long time ago. And there has been, the votes were done then to support the islands because the islands needed a lot of help, and it was a lifeline for them. And I understand that on a year-round basis. I get that. But today's very different story, and the islands are very different today than they were 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I thought that for too long, the town of Barnstable, and I didn't want to get into all the adverse effects that the steamship has, because that they are a viable thing. That's for another time. We could talk about what's good there. I just wanted to strengthen the letter and make it just more concentrated on the influence that Barnstable would have. So I recommended that there be the one line for people who can't read this from the audience added to the first paragraph that says, "This bill takes a small step to grant influence to the 3 mainland ports." I deleted some of the stuff that diverted from the influential things, and I think you can, the rest of it's just tweaking and cleaning it up. But, so I offer the amendments to the letter as written.
Very good.
I don't know if we need to actually vote, or we could just vote on the amended letter, correct? Say again?
You're making a motion to amend the letter.
Yes. Okay, are you ready for that, or no?
Any other, maybe we should just have more discussion before we do that. Councilor Lucky.
I just have one comment. I was advised that I misspoke. I used the name Bob Davis. I meant Bob Jones. Thank you.
I knew you meant.
We know who you meant.
Anybody else like to comment? Yes, Councilor Mendes, please.
Thank you, President Levesque. I remember that meeting well, and I think this is a small step forward to what we're trying to accomplish, but to me, it doesn't go far enough. They've had their foot on our neck for way too many years, to be honest with you. We're taken advantage of and not respected. So this is a great first step, but I hope there's many other steps to come after this.
I think it's good to apply pressure when we have an opportunity to do so. And this is just for reference to those who are watching and councilors on the dais, this is fall into Councilor Penn's precinct, so I would defer to you as far as the letter goes, what you feel is more appropriate. So without any further discussion, and if not seeing any, if you'd like to make the amendment,
Okay.
or proposed amendment.
I would make a motion that we approve the letter to the House and Senate clerks as amended.
Second.
We have first and second, so we're voting on the amendment. We're voting on the amendment. There's no, I'm okay. As long as there's not an amendment to the amendment, I'm good. So, so with that, Councilor, voting on the amendment, if you could signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
So the amendment passes by unanimously. So now we, without further discussion, not seeing any, now we would vote on the letter as amended for item number 2024-084. So, Council, if you could signify your approval by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous, and I believe that is the last item on this agenda. I would congratulate the new councilors and the seasoned councilors, as it was mentioned, on first meeting, and again, congratulations on my fellow councilors on their election. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I apologize. Thank you. I have to turn the page here, and now I hand thank you for that. I hand the meeting over to Town Clerk Ann Quirk for the Town Council nominations for 2024 officers.
Thank you, President Levesque. The Town Council has rules that we follow, and this night we have the nominations. What I would like to hear is, or I'd like to see is hands who would like to make nominations for the office of president first. So I need the actual person that's making that nomination and a second. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with. For the office of president. Gordon.
I'd like to nominate Paula Schnepp.
Paula Schnepp. Do I hear a second? Second by Neary. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'd like to nominate Councilor Felicia Penn.
All right. Is there a second? Sorry, I have to write all this down. Is there another nomination? All right, then we're going to close the nominations for president. And now we have the office of vice president. Could I see? Yep.
I'd like to nominate Councilor Tamish for vice president.
Tamish. Second by Crow. Okay, anyone else? Yes.
Sorry about that. I'd like to make a nomination for the council from Precinct 1, Mr. Gordon Starr, as vice president.
Starr. And that was Neary. And is there a second? Who's that? Oh, thank you, Mr. Mendez. Anybody else? All right, so we have 2 for president and 2 for vice president. And normally what we do is we hold off until your next meeting, which gives people time to respond to this, the public as well as individually yourselves, and to think it over. And then we will do the elections for the president and vice president, giving time for people to have a say. So sometimes it's the person that's the candidate that likes to speak, and sometimes it's someone that wants to speak for the candidate. Either way it works. You all have 5 minutes to talk about this and, before we vote. Yes, Betty.
Yeah, I just had a process question, because I know I've had some correspondence with Attorney Nober and with you, Ann, and President Levesque about a potential for suspending the rules that a vote might be held tonight. And I wondered if we could get, just for the education of all of us, some idea about that process. It would maybe the thought that some of us might not be here at the next meeting, perhaps. Everyone is here tonight, and also mindful that we don't have a vice president right now, and that we have had a large turnover. I just would like, just for my own education and for the public's, the process and what might be entailed if we did consider to suspend the rules and proceed this evening.
You can absolutely do that. The reason it's done this way is to give the public the chance to respond, because if they've been listening or if they call and want to know more about the people that are running. That's part of this. It's also the opportunity for all of you to have some conversation individually of what you're looking for your president and for your vice president. But if you want to suspend the rules, you absolutely can do that. We'd have to have a majority vote, I believe, to do that. And I have to do roll call for the different positions. So if that's the way you all want to go, that's your opportunity. Yes?
Has there been any precedent to doing this?
Not without, it's only been done when there's 1 and 1. So 1 for president and 1 for vice president, and then you're voting for a slate. That's the only time it's been done, and I've been doing this since 2011, so. Yes.
And the 5 minutes that were allotted, is that, say, Felicia would want to speak for 5 minutes?
Yep.
And then I could speak about
Absolutely.
Felicia for 5 minutes? and
Absolutely.
Paul can speak for 5 minutes about Felicia?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, it's not just 5 minutes in total, it's 5 minutes
No.
per person. All right, thank you.
Yes.
And what happens if one of us is gone for the next meeting and it's a tie, 6-6? What happens with a tie?
We'd have to vote again.
You'd keep voting
We
until it's
keep
not
voting.
a tie?
We keep voting. Yes,
Just a question for the council itself. Does anyone know they will not be here for the next meeting? I mean, it's the 4 days before Christmas. Will people not be here?
I don't know. I may not be here. I don't know my schedule right now.
Say that again? I can't hear him.
You're running the meeting, so
Oh,
what would you like to do?
well, I'd like to know what you would all like to do next. You leave it the way it is. Anybody else?
I don't know why we would not take time to get to learn, understand, know the new counselors that have come on board. I wouldn't call it a turnover. We had 2 positions. Other people were termed out, but that's another point. I don't know why we wouldn't offer that to the public for, this is the slate of people who are coming up, and there'll be comment. There'll be either collaboration or not, and we make our decisions. I think it's unusual that you would have it be brought to a vote tonight. I think it doesn't make sense to me, but just my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I have a clarification. When you say we vote until we elect,
right?
Is that on the 21st, or do we put that off to another day?
Oh, no. We vote on the 21st. We'll know on the 21st.
Thank you.
Come hell or high water. Yes.
My question is, or my point maybe be, if the whole council's here tonight, and there's a chance that and this, it seems to me this vote might be pretty close, and that having the whole council vote on it would be advantageous to all sides when all councilors are here. We don't have a definite whether Councilor Ludke will be here or not. So I think that should be taken into consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Kristen? Okay. Yes, Jeffrey.
A lot of people talk about transparency.
Yes.
The transparent thing is to vote when people have enough time in the public to see who's going to be the candidates, because people are going to have opinions on them.
Yes.
So that's what I feel we should do, is give the people 2 weeks to see who the leadership of this council is going to be, so we can get word from my constituents about what they want.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Kristen.
How is it that the process runs when we only have a president and we don't have a vice president, as far as operations, agenda setting, those kinds of things?
Oh, I'll be happy to tell you that. If the president has to recuse himself tonight, according to your town council rules, it was the it was the person from precinct 1 that took over the meeting. If that happens again, it would be the person from precinct 2 that would take over the meeting, and that's how it rolls. It goes right down the line. President Levesque, are you planning not to be here or to recuse yourself next week, or in 2 weeks?
It would be the same item.
Okay, so there would be that one instance, and then you would take over for that one item.
And as far as agenda setting for the next meeting, how does that work when we only have one president and no vice president?
It doesn't affect the agenda.
So the agenda for the agenda that we will be working on 2 weeks from now is already totally set?
Not totally, I'm sure. I'll have to defer to the town attorney, but I believe all the things that we have already pushed out to 2 weeks from now, yes, those will all be on the agenda.
and additional items that may come up between now and then, how do those land on the agenda without a full leadership in place?
We generally have a meeting every Monday morning with leadership, with the president and the vice president. But ultimately, it is the president's decision as to what goes on the agenda. So I don't think it would really affect anything having a vice president, having a vacancy for one additional meeting.
Yes, Mr. Crow.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. I'm asking it anyway. There are no proxy votes
No.
No.
allowed.
No.
Okay.
And it's a majority of the counselors present and voting. That's what's required.
Yes.
If I may, just to kind of piggyback that comment, so someone gets sick, someone gets ill, we could be out 3 counselors next meeting, we could be out 4. It's the majority at that particular time, so.
Right, if you're down to 10, it's a majority of 10.
Thank you.
It's 6.
Yes. Gordon.
Thank you, thank you. I just want to point out that there are 2 counselors here that I just met tonight. I've never seen them before in my life, so it would be nice to have some time to get to know people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that side of the room is pretty quiet. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just say
Counselor
that I really appreciate this conversation. This is what I wanted to hear. And I think it's a great conversation, especially what Jeff said about the transparency. We're all really interested in that. And it's so clear based on, going back to our public comments, it's so important. And I have no control over my schedule right now. So if I'm not here, I'm not here. And I guess that's the way it goes.
Counselor Clark.
Thank you. I would miss Betty if you were not here. But I have to say, if we don't kill this conversation in 6 minutes, we have to vote to go beyond 11 o'clock.
I know. Anyone else?
Let's keep it going. Just
Okay. No one over
you get your
there?
first
Yes.
6. You get your first past 11 o'clock.
Counselor Crowe?
We are at a position now where all councils are here. Gordon's had COVID and a number of others. I would ask that we suspend the rules and have a vote tonight while all people are here, and it's in public.
Are you making an amendment? Or are you making a motion?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? All right, let's have a vote. I don't believe I have to roll call on an amendment. No. So, those in favor of putting aside the rules and voting now, please signify by saying yes and raising your hand and giving me time to write down your names. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. Okay, I think I don't have to. So it's Crow and Turkelson and Penn. And it was you, Mr. Tamish? Yeah. Tamish. I'm missing somebody. 4. Who was? I have Councilors Crow, Turkelson, Penn, and Tamish. I think there were 5 of you that put your hands up. No? 4? Okay, those not in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying yes.
Well, you only need a majority.
There we go. There's my majority. I love it. I didn't need it, but I like it. Thank you. I like to be sure what I'm doing here.
Move to adjourn.
So, yes, let's move to adjourn because we'll all be together again in 2 weeks. Could I have a motion to adjourn and a yes?
Second.
Yay!
Let's go.
Does everybody have to vote on the adjournment? Okay. We signify your approval for adjourning by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.